Texas is known for its wide-open spaces, rolling hills, and sprawling urban parks. But some parks are more than just places to play, picnic, or stroll. They are home to restless spirits and mysterious whispers that echo through the night. Across the Lone Star State, 25 haunted parks hold tales of vanished visitors, unexplained shadows, and voices that speak when no one is around. Tonight, we step into the darkness and listen carefully, for if you hear the whispers, it may already be too late. Audubon Park in Houston is known for its serene walking paths, towering oak trees, and tranquil green spaces, providing a peaceful retreat from the city's hustle and bustle. By day, visitors enjoy jogging, walking dogs, and taking in the beauty of the well-maintained trails that wind through the park. The sunlight filters through the canopy of oaks, creating dappled patterns on the paths, while birdsong fills the air. Yet, as evening approaches and shadows stretch across the park, many visitors report experiences that suggest Audubon Park holds more than just natural beauty. Faint whispers carried through the trees, shadowy figures glimpsed between the oaks, and the unnerving sensation of being followed by unseen presences contribute to the park's mysterious reputation. One of the most commonly reported phenomena in Audubon Park is the faint whispering. Walkers and joggers alike have described hearing indistinct voices or murmurs drifting through the tree-lined trails. These whispers often come in fragments, words, phrases, or even names that seem to emerge from nowhere. One visitor recounted pausing near an old oak, hearing a soft voice call out this way, just as a sudden breeze rustled the branches above. Turning quickly to find the source, no one was visible, and the path behind her was empty. These whispers are subtle, yet persistent, leaving visitors with the distinct impression that someone or something is nearby, unseen but attentive. Shadowy figures add a visual element to the park's eerie atmosphere. Visitors have reported glimpsing dark shapes moving between the trees, sometimes darting across the paths, other times standing still as though observing them. One evening, a man walking his dog noticed a silhouette between two oaks ahead, tall and featureless, frozen in place. As he drew closer, the figure seemed to fade into the darkness, leaving only a slight chill in the air. Many visitors describe a sense of movement at the edge of their vision, catching glimpses of forms that vanish when looked at directly. This subtle visual phenomenon, combined with the park's dim evening light, heightens the feeling that the park is alive with unseen presences. The sensation of being followed is another recurring report among those who explore Audubon Park after dark. People walking the trails often describe the feeling of eyes on them or footsteps just behind, even when the path is empty. A jogger recounted slowing his pace as he felt a presence behind him, matching his rhythm. Each time he turned to see who might be there, no one appeared, yet the sensation persisted until he left the trail entirely. This feeling of being accompanied by an unseen observer amplifies the sense of unease and contributes to the park's haunted reputation. Environmental factors enhance these eerie experiences. The dense oak canopy creates areas of shadow and darkness, even at dusk, and the park's winding paths and secluded corners make it easy for someone to feel isolated. The rustling of leaves, the whisper of wind, or the movement of small animals can easily be interpreted as something more sinister, especially when visitors are already alert to subtle phenomena. The natural acoustics of the park carry sounds in unusual ways, making faint noises echo or appear closer than they actually are. Even ordinary environmental factors, such as shifting shadows or flickering streetlights, contribute to the sensation of unseen activity. Local lore adds context to these reports. Audubon Park has long been a gathering place for Houstonians, and stories of unusual experiences have been passed down over the years. Many believe that the park preserves remnants of its past, with energy or memories lingering among the oaks. Whether these are traces of historical events, the spirits of those who once enjoyed the park, or simply the mind's response to an atmospheric environment, the stories have become part of the park's identity. Park staff and regular visitors often share anecdotes of strange sightings and whispered voices, lending credibility to the sense that Audubon Park holds mysteries waiting to be noticed. Despite its eerie reputation, Audubon Park remains a beloved space. Families, joggers, and birdwatchers continue to enjoy the park during daylight hours, appreciating its beauty and calm. At night, the park transforms into a place where ordinary sounds, shadows, and sensations become entwined with the unexplained. Visitors who walk the trails after dark report heightened awareness, noticing every movement and sound, aware that the park's quiet charm may hide subtle, mysterious presences. For those who experience it, Audubon Park becomes a place where nature, history, and the supernatural intersect, offering both the peace of green spaces and the thrill of the unknown. Brazos Bend State Park in Neatville, Texas, is a sprawling expanse of wetlands, forested trails, and quiet ponds. By day, it is a haven for birdwatchers, hikers, and nature enthusiasts, offering glimpses of alligators basking on the banks, herons stalking shallow waters, and turtles slipping silently into the murky depths. The air carries the scent of wet earth and cypress trees, and the natural beauty of the park makes it a serene retreat from the modern world. But as the sun sets and darkness settles over the swamp, the park takes on a different character. Visitors have long reported experiences that defy explanation. Ghostly lights flickering across the water, apparitions of settlers long gone, and whispers carried on the wind that seem to call directly to those who venture near the ponds or along the shadowed trails. Over time, these phenomena have built Brazos Bend's reputation as a place where the ordinary and the supernatural intersect. One of the most frequently reported experiences involves ghostly lights over the water. Witnesses describe small orbs or flickering glows that appear just above the surface of the ponds and marshes. Sometimes these lights drift lazily across the water, while other times they dart quickly from one bank to another, vanishing when approached. Visitors often feel compelled to follow them, only to find the lights gone, leaving nothing but rippling water and reflected moonlight. A camper reported sitting quietly on the edge of a boardwalk when a series of small, amber-colored lights rose from the reeds, hovering above the pond as if suspended by some unseen force. They glimmered for several moments before disappearing without trace, leaving the observer with a mixture of awe and unease. Many believe these lights are spirits of the past, flickering between the world of the living and the dead, unable to fully cross over, but unwilling to leave entirely. Apparitions of long-dead settlers are another common phenomenon. Visitors walking the trails or pausing near the water have reported seeing faint human figures moving among the trees or along the banks. These figures are often described as dressed in clothing from the 19th or early 20th centuries. Their faces sometimes blurred or shadowed, their forms flickering as if not fully solid. One hiker recounted stopping on a narrow trail when he noticed a woman in a long, dark dress standing silently under a cypress tree. As he blinked, she vanished, leaving him staring at the empty ground, uncertain if he had truly seen someone or something beyond the ordinary world. Many locals believe that these figures represent the spirits of settlers, hunters, and travelers who once lived and worked in the area, their energy lingering in the swamp long after their deaths. Whispers carried on the wind add a chilling layer to these experiences. Visitors often report hearing faint voices that seem to come from nowhere, carried across the water or through the dense trees. Sometimes these whispers call out names, phrases, or warnings, always fleeting and elusive. One fisherman described hearing a soft murmur calling his name as he walked along a darkened path beside the water. He stopped, looking in all directions, but saw no one. The voice faded as quickly as it had arrived, leaving only the rustling of leaves and the distant croak of frogs. Others report hearing laughter, distant conversations, or repeated phrases like "come back" or "follow me," as though the park itself is communicating across time. The combination of whispers, lights, and apparitions creates a multi-sensory experience that feels vivid and immersive, leaving witnesses with the impression that the swamp is alive in ways beyond the natural world. Environmental conditions in Brazos Bend State Park amplify these experiences. The swamp is dense with cypress trees, moss-draped branches, and narrow trails that can disappear into darkness, providing both cover and mystery. Fog often rises from the water in the early evening, blending with moonlight to create hazy, shifting shapes that play tricks on the eyes. Even the faintest movement, a ripple on the pond, the sway of reeds, or a flash of reflective water can take on an uncanny quality. Nighttime sounds, from the croak of frogs to the rustle of wind through the branches, carry unnaturally far over the water, making ordinary noises seem spectral. These factors combine to heighten perception and anxiety, turning normal sensory experiences into encounters that feel otherworldly. Local lore offers possible explanations for the hauntings. The Brazos Bend area has a long and layered history, from its early Native American inhabitants to settlers in the 19th century. Legends suggest that the swamp preserves the memories of those who lived, labored, and died near its waters. Ghostly lights might be the energy of lost souls attempting to guide or warn travelers, while apparitions reflect those who once walked the trails, unable to leave the land entirely. Whispered voices may be residual echoes of conversations, calls for help, or simply the emotions and intentions of those long gone. While no definitive explanation exists, the stories passed down through generations keep the park's mysteries alive. Despite its eerie reputation, Brazos Bend remains a popular destination for day visitors, birdwatchers, and photographers. The park's natural beauty is undeniable, and by daylight, the trails and ponds feel safe, inviting, and serene. Yet those who venture into the park after dark often experience a completely different atmosphere. The combination of ghostly lights, apparitions, and whispers creates a sense of immersion that is hard to forget. Each step along the boardwalk, each glance across the water, and each rustle of leaves carries the possibility of encountering something beyond the ordinary, heightening the thrill and the tension for those who dare to explore the swamp at night. Visitors often leave Brazos Bend with vivid memories of their experiences, reporting lingering impressions of having been watched, followed, or called upon. The lights over the water, the figures in period clothing, and the whispers echoing through the trees create an encounter with history, memory, and the unexplained. The park transforms after sunset, becoming a space where the natural and supernatural converge, offering a haunting yet captivating experience for those willing to step into the shadows and witness the mysteries of the Texas swamp. Crossing the trails and boardwalks at night is more than a walk. It is a journey into the unknown, a brush with echoes of the past, and a vivid exploration of a place where the living and the unseen seem to coexist. Zilker Metropolitan Park in Austin, Texas, is a sprawling urban oasis, known for its open fields, winding trails, and the scenic Barton Creek that meanders through its heart. By day, the park is filled with families picnicking, joggers traversing the trails, and musicians performing near the creek, offering a lively and welcoming atmosphere. But when night falls and the city's hum fades, visitors have reported experiences that are anything but ordinary. Over the years, stories have emerged of shadowy figures near the creek, faint music and laughter echoing through the trees, and sudden, inexplicable chills along empty walking paths. These accounts suggest that beneath the park's peaceful daytime appearance lies a realm touched by the unexplained, one where the familiar becomes eerie and every shadow holds the possibility of the unseen. One of the most frequently mentioned phenomena involves shadowy figures seen near Barton Creek. Locals report seeing dark silhouettes moving silently among the trees, sometimes standing still as if watching the paths or the water. These figures often lack clear features, appearing more as human-shaped shadows than as distinct people. A jogger recounted pausing when he noticed a figure gliding along the creek's edge, only for it to vanish when he turned toward it. Other visitors described the figures lingering in the periphery of their vision, vanishing whenever observed directly. The presence of these shadows is often accompanied by an intense feeling of being watched, giving an otherwise serene park an unsettling sense of vigilance. Faint music and laughter are another common experience reported by nighttime visitors. Many claim to hear distant, disembodied sounds that seem to drift through the park from nowhere, often resembling the strains of a piano or guitar, accompanied by soft laughter or murmured conversations. One evening, a couple walking along an empty trail near the creek described hearing the faint melody of a song, clear enough to recognize but with no visible source. The music would rise and fall, as though moving with the wind, and when they tried to follow it, the sounds would fade, leaving only the stillness of the night. Others have described hearing the echo of children laughing, as if playing near the water, though the paths remain empty and silent when investigated. The combination of sound and space creates an uncanny effect, making the park feel inhabited by spirits or echoes from another time. Sudden chills along the walking paths are another hallmark of the park's nighttime mysteries. Visitors frequently report brief drops in temperature in certain areas, often accompanied by a prickling sensation along the skin or the feeling of an unseen presence brushing past. These chills can occur even on warm evenings when the rest of the park feels calm and still. One walker recalled moving along a quiet path and feeling a freezing gust pass over him, though the trees were motionless and no wind could be detected. Moments later, he sensed someone or something walking just behind him, though no figure appeared. The effect is disorienting, often causing visitors to quicken their pace or abandon their walks altogether. These sudden, localized chills reinforce the impression that the park is alive with unseen energies and that each trail and creekside path may hold a lingering presence. The environment of Zilker Metropolitan Park enhances these experiences. The creek winds through dense clusters of trees, creating natural shadows and pockets of darkness where light struggles to penetrate. The rustle of leaves and the gentle babble of water can carry sounds farther than expected, turning ordinary noises into eerie echoes. Streetlights and distant city lights cast unnatural glows and elongated shadows, blending with the darkness of the foliage to create shifting patterns that trick the eye. Many visitors note that the combination of low light, reflective water, and uneven terrain amplifies every sound, shadow, and movement, making the park a setting where imagination and reality can easily overlap. Local lore provides context for some of the park's mysterious occurrences. Zilker Park sits on land with a long and layered history, including early settlements and cultural gatherings. Some theorists suggest that the shadowy figures may represent the lingering presence of past visitors or workers, while the music and laughter could be residual echoes of celebrations, performances, or community events. The sudden chills may be the park's subtle reminder of its deep past, connecting those who walk its trails at night to moments long forgotten. Whether these experiences are the product of history, psychological perception, or something genuinely supernatural, they have fostered a reputation for Zilker as a space where the ordinary and the unexplained coexist. Despite these reports, the park remains a popular destination during the day, filled with life, laughter, and activity. But after sunset, the atmosphere shifts, and the familiar paths and creek become sites of quiet tension. Visitors walking alone or in small groups at night often describe the sensation of stepping into a liminal space, where every sound and shadow carries meaning and the presence of unseen watchers is palpable. Those who experience the park after dark often find themselves acutely aware of the environment, noticing every rustle, ripple, and faint glimmer of movement. The combination of shadowy figures, disembodied sounds, and sudden chills makes each walk an immersive encounter with the park's mysterious side. People who traverse Zilker Metropolitan Park at night often leave with a lasting impression. The faint music, laughter, and shadows create an atmosphere that lingers, blending memory, imagination, and the unknown into a single, unforgettable experience. The park transforms from a safe urban retreat into a space where the boundary between the natural and the supernatural feels thin and permeable. Crossing its trails after dark becomes more than a walk. It is a journey through a place where history, memory, and the unexplained coexist, offering an encounter with unseen presences that remain both elusive and compelling. The Trinity River Audubon Center in Dallas is a sanctuary of wetlands, native forests, and winding trails that attract birdwatchers, hikers, and families seeking a quiet escape from the city. By day, the park hums with the sounds of birdsong, rustling leaves, and the laughter of children exploring the nature paths, fleeting shadows slipping between the trees, whispers that seem to come from nowhere, and apparitions of people in vintage clothing wandering along the trails all contribute to a growing reputation of the Trinity River Audubon Center as a place where the natural and the supernatural intersect. These encounters, while often subtle, leave a lasting impression on those who witness them. One of the most commonly reported phenomena involves fleeting shadows moving among the trees. Visitors describe these forms as dark, human-like shapes that glide or dart silently through the undergrowth. They are rarely fully visible, often seen from the corner of the eye, and vanish when approached directly. One late afternoon, a birdwatcher recounted pausing near a dense cluster of oaks when he noticed a figure moving quickly between the trunks. Each time he shifted his gaze, the shadow disappeared, only to reappear moments later in a slightly different position. These glimpses create a persistent sense of being observed, even when the trails seem empty, and contributes to the feeling that the park comes alive after sunset with unseen movement. Whispers are another element that many visitors encounter. Often faint and indistinct, these sounds appear to drift on the wind, emerging from areas where no other human presence is evident. Some report hearing their names called, while others perceive fragments of conversation or soft, urgent warnings. One hiker, walking a secluded trail at dusk, described pausing as he heard a gentle whisper say, "Be careful." He looked around, but the path was empty, the only sound the rustle of leaves and the distant call of a heron. These whispers are fleeting, vanishing as soon as attention is focused on them, leaving witnesses unsettled and wondering whether what they heard was real or imagined. The effect is amplified by the quiet of the park at night, which seems to carry even the smallest sounds unnaturally far. Perhaps the most striking reports involve apparitions of people in vintage clothing. These apparitions are often faint, appearing almost translucent, yet their presence is unmistakable. A couple walking the boardwalk late in the evening reported seeing a man in a worn suit and a wide-brimmed hat standing at the edge of the wetland, looking out over the water. As they approached, he vanished without a trace, leaving only the gentle ripple of the river behind him. Other witnesses have reported similar encounters, with figures appearing at different points along trails, only to vanish when observed directly. Many speculate that these apparitions are echoes of past visitors or residents, lingering in the park long after their time in the physical world. The natural environment of the Trinity River Audubon Center enhances the impact of these experiences. Dense foliage, tall trees, and winding trails create pockets of shadow and concealment where light is limited and shapes can appear distorted. The quiet of the park after dark magnifies every rustle, creak, and whisper, creating an atmosphere where ordinary sounds can feel charged with meaning. Water features, such as small ponds and wetlands, reflect moonlight in shifting patterns, which can make shadows appear to move on their own. Even a gentle breeze can carry a whisper or rustle of leaves across the trails, giving the impression of unseen presence. These environmental factors combine with human perception to create encounters that are at once subtle, eerie, and convincing. Local lore and history provide additional context for these reports. The land now occupied by the Trinity River Audubon Center has a long past, including periods of settlement, farming, and natural resource use. Some speculate that the park may preserve residual energy from those who lived, worked, and walked these paths long ago. Shadowy figures could represent individuals who once inhabited the area, while whispers may be echoes of conversations or warnings carried across time. Others suggest that the apparitions in vintage clothing are reminders of a human presence that has never entirely faded from the park. Regardless of the explanation, these stories have become a part of the park's identity, drawing visitors curious about both its natural beauty and its mysteries. Despite its eerie reputation, the Trinity River Audubon Center remains a beloved urban oasis. During daylight hours, the park is lively, filled with birdwatchers, families, and hikers enjoying the trails and wetlands. After dark, however, the atmosphere transforms. Trails that felt safe and familiar during the day can seem isolated and shadowed, and the creek and boardwalks may carry whispers and glimpses of fleeting figures. Visitors who walk the park at night often report heightened awareness, noticing small movements, changes in light, and subtle sounds that might go unnoticed during the day. Each step along the trails becomes a study in perception, as the natural and the unexplained blend to create an immersive experience. People who encounter these phenomena often leave with a lasting impression. The shadows, whispers, and apparitions create a sense of mystery that lingers long after leaving the park, making each visit memorable. The combination of natural beauty and subtle supernatural elements gives the Trinity River Audubon Center a dual character, a peaceful refuge by day, and a place of quiet unease and intrigue by night. For those willing to explore the trails after dark, the park offers an encounter with something just beyond the ordinary. A place where the past, the unseen, and the present converge in subtle but undeniable ways. Sam Houston Park in Houston, Texas, is a unique blend of urban green space and historical preservation, nestled amidst the city's bustling streets. The park preserves a collection of 19th-century buildings that were relocated to this site, offering a glimpse into Houston's early days. Visitors during the day can wander through restored homes, admire vintage architecture, and explore museums that display artifacts from the city's past. But beyond the charm of historical recreation, the park holds a darker, more mysterious reputation. Locals and visitors alike have reported ghostly residents appearing in the old houses, unexplained footsteps echoing through the halls, and voices that seem to drift from one building to another, calling to those who wander too closely. These phenomena have contributed to Sam Houston Park's reputation as a place where the past refuses to remain silent. One of the most frequently reported experiences involves ghostly residents of the historic homes. Witnesses described seeing shadowy figures dressed in clothing from the 19th or early 20th century, moving silently through the rooms or standing in windows as if observing the present-day park. One visitor recounted entering a small historic cottage and glimpsing a woman in a long dress and bonnet standing near the fireplace. When he blinked, she vanished, leaving only the faint scent of old wood and candle wax. Others have reported seeing men in period attire pacing along hallways or appearing in the doorway, disappearing when approached directly. These apparitions often feel real enough to create the sense that the buildings themselves are inhabited, not just by history, but by lingering spirits. Unexplained footsteps are another common phenomenon in the park. Visitors walking the paths near the historic homes have reported hearing the distinct sound of shoes on wooden floors or cobblestone paths, even when the buildings are empty or the trails are deserted. A park employee described walking through one of the oldest houses late in the evening, only to hear the slow, deliberate steps of someone pacing behind him. Each time he turned, the hallway was empty. Other visitors have noted similar occurrences, hearing the rhythmic sound of walking or running that seems to follow them through the park, stopping abruptly as they reach the end of a hallway or an open doorway. These footsteps often carry a weight and clarity that suggests presence, yet when investigated, no one is ever found. Voices echoing through the park add an eerie layer to these experiences. Visitors frequently report hearing faint conversations, calls, or murmured warnings emanating from the old buildings. One woman described hearing a voice softly call her name as she approached a restored kitchen house, though no one else was nearby. The voice seemed to float between the walls, fading and returning in irregular intervals. Others have reported hearing laughter, arguments, or even the sound of singing, as though the past residents of Sam Houston Park are replaying fragments of their daily lives for anyone willing to listen. These auditory phenomena often heighten the sense of connection to the past, creating an immersive and haunting experience for visitors. The architectural layout of the park enhances these encounters. The historic homes are arranged close together, with narrow paths winding between them, and many structures feature wooden floors, high ceilings, and open windows. The acoustics of these spaces allow sounds to travel in unusual ways, making footsteps, voices, and other noises appear to come from unexpected directions. Even a subtle creak of an old floorboard can sound amplified in the quiet of the park at night, contributing to the impression of an unseen presence moving through the homes. Combined with dim lighting, shadows cast by lanterns or exterior lamps, and the natural rustle of trees in the breeze. These environmental factors create an atmosphere in which ordinary events can take on extraordinary, haunting qualities. Local lore provides context for the reported hauntings. The historic homes were once inhabited by Houston's earliest settlers and notable citizens, some of whom experienced tragedy, hardship, or untimely deaths. Stories suggest that the spirits of these individuals linger, tied to the buildings where they lived and worked, unable to move on completely. The combination of history, emotion, and memory is believed to create residual energy that manifests as shadowy figures, footsteps, or voices. Park staff have passed down these stories, and over the years, visitors have shared their own experiences, contributing to a rich tradition of ghostly encounters that blends fact, folklore, and personal testimony. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Sam Houston Park remains a popular destination for history enthusiasts, families, and tourists. By day, the park offers educational tours, photography opportunities, and a peaceful retreat from urban life. Yet, as daylight fades, the atmosphere shifts, and the historic homes take on a more enigmatic presence. Visitors who explore the park in the evening often report heightened awareness of their surroundings, noting shadows that seem to move on their own, creaks and thuds that echo with uncanny clarity, and the sensation of being observed. For many, the allure of Sam Houston Park lies in this duality, a place where history comes alive not only in artifacts and architecture, but also in the lingering presence of the past itself. Those who experience the park's ghostly side often leave with vivid memories. The shadowy figures, the footsteps, and the disembodied voices create a sense of connection to Houston's history, while also leaving a subtle sense of unease. Sam Houston Park transforms after dark, offering a glimpse into a world where the past and present coexist, and where the ordinary rhythms of life, walking, talking, moving through space, become entwined with the unseen. For those willing to wander its paths and step inside its historic homes, the park provides an encounter with history, memory, and the supernatural that lingers long after leaving the grounds. San Jacinto Battleground State Historic Site in La Porte, Texas, is hallowed ground, the site of the decisive 1836 battle that secured Texas independence. By day, visitors stroll across the grassy fields, explore the towering monument, and reflect on the pivotal moments of history. Yet, as night falls, the battleground takes on an eerie, almost spectral quality. Guests and historians alike have reported phantom soldiers appearing across the fields, whispers of battle cries echoing through the darkness, and strange lights hovering above the land. These accounts have transformed the site from a historical landmark into a place of mysterious, lingering presence, where the past seems to bleed into the present. The most commonly reported phenomena involve ghostly soldiers walking the field. Visitors have described seeing figures dressed in 19th-century military uniforms, moving as if patrolling, marching, or surveying the land. One historian, recounting a nighttime visit, said he observed several figures in period attire, walking in formation across the open field. The soldiers' movements were deliberate, almost mechanical. Yet there was no sound of footsteps or interaction with the environment. As he approached, the figures seemed to vanish into the night, leaving the field empty except for the whispering wind through the tall grass. Many believe these apparitions are the spirits of the men who fought and fell during the battle, replaying their final hours across the same ground where they once struggled for independence. Whispers of battle cries are another hallmark of the battleground's nighttime activity. Guests often report hearing fragmented voices and commands that seem to echo from nowhere, rising and falling across the open fields. One visitor, walking near the monument at dusk, described hearing faint shouts of "advance" and "hold the line," carried on the wind. These sounds often seem to come from a distance, and yet they feel immediate and unnervingly real, as if the voices are attempting to reach the present from the past. In some cases, The whispers appear to react to movement growing louder as visitors move closer to certain areas of the field, only to fade when they stop. Strange lights floating above the battleground add another layer of mystery. Accounts describe glowing orbs or flickering lights that drift silently across the fields, sometimes hovering above the tall grass or near the monument. Witnesses report that these lights behave unpredictably, appearing suddenly in one location, vanishing, and then reappearing in another. Some speculate that the lights are manifestations of restless spirits, while others suggest they may be residual energy from the violence and emotion of the battle itself. Regardless of the explanation, the lights have an uncanny effect on observers, making the historic site feel alive in ways that transcend the physical world. The natural environment of San Jacinto Battleground enhances the haunting atmosphere. Open fields bordered by trees, the quiet lapping of nearby waters, and the subtle echoes of distant roads create conditions where sound and light can behave in unexpected ways. The wind sweeping across the flat terrain can carry and distort noises, giving the impression of murmurs, shouts, or footsteps where none exist. Shadows stretch and shift as the moon rises, creating fleeting shapes that vanish when directly observed. Even the monument itself, a towering reminder of history, can cast dramatic shadows that seem to move independently, adding to the sense that the battleground is watched and alive long after the sun has set. Local lore and historical context reinforce the spectral reputation of the site. The battle at San Jacinto was intense and decisive, leaving behind a legacy of heroism, sacrifice, and bloodshed. Stories passed down through generations tell of soldiers who perished in confusion or isolation, of cries unheard by their comrades, and of the deep imprint left by such violence on the land itself. Many believe that the apparitions, whispers, and lights are residual echoes of the battle, lingering on the same fields where history was written. Others think that the spirits are drawn to the memory of those who visit, responding to curiosity, reverence, or fear. Visitors who encounter these phenomena often describe a mix of awe and unease. Seeing ghostly soldiers marching across the fields, hearing distant cries carried by the wind, or watching lights drift mysteriously overhead creates a palpable connection to the past, and yet reminds observers of the fragility of life and the intensity of historical events. For many, these experiences leave a lasting impression, a sense that the battleground is not only a monument to history, but also a space where the echoes of human struggle remain present. Despite the eerie reports, San Jacinto Battleground State Historic Site remains a cherished location for education, tourism, and reflection. Families explore the fields, history enthusiasts study the monuments, and visitors pay homage to the past. But as darkness falls, those who linger may encounter a hidden layer of the park, where phantom soldiers tread familiar paths, battle cries whisper across the fields, and ghostly lights float silently in the night. In these moments, the past is no longer distant. It is immediate, tangible, and hauntingly alive. Lady Bird Lake Hike on Bike Trail in Austin, Texas, is a popular destination for locals and tourists alike, winding along the scenic shores of the Colorado River. By day, the trail is alive with cyclists, joggers, and families enjoying the water views, paddleboarders gliding across the lake, and the sounds of birds calling from the trees lining the path. But as evening falls and the crowds thin, the atmosphere along the trail shifts. Visitors often report subtle, unnerving experiences, whispers that seem to come from nowhere, shadowy figures glimpsed from the corner of the eye, and sudden cold chills that appear even on warm nights. These phenomena have contributed to the trail's reputation as a place where the natural beauty of Austin intersects with something more mysterious and unexplained. One of the most frequently reported occurrences along the trail involves whispers. Walkers and joggers have described hearing soft voices carried along the path, sometimes indistinct fragments of conversation, other times a clear utterance of their names. A cyclist riding just past dusk recalled slowing when he heard a gentle murmur that seemed to follow him for several yards, vanishing the moment he stopped to listen. These whispers are rarely audible to anyone else and often have no identifiable source, leaving those who hear them questioning whether the sound came from another person or something unseen. The effect is enhanced by the stillness of the trail at night, when the usual daytime noises are gone and the quiet seems to carry every subtle sound with unnerving clarity. Shadowy figures are another common experience, reported along Lady Bird Lake Trail. Visitors often see dark shapes moving along the edge of the trees, darting across the path, or standing momentarily near benches or lampposts. These figures are usually fleeting, visible only from the corner of the eye, and vanish as soon as one tries to look directly at them. One evening, a group of friends, walking along the eastern section of the trail, described seeing a tall figure standing beneath a tree, motionless, watching them. By the time they turned to get a better look, it had disappeared entirely, leaving only the rustling of leaves in its place. Many hikers report a similar sensation, the feeling of being observed, of movement just beyond vision, suggesting a presence that is both near and intangible. Sudden chills on warm nights further contribute to the trail's eerie reputation. Even during summer months, when temperatures remain mild, some visitors report pockets of cold air along the trail that seem to have no logical origin. A runner described pausing near a wooden bench as a shiver ran down her spine despite the humid evening. The air felt unnaturally cold and dense, and she sensed a presence standing just behind her, though no one was visible. Others have reported similar experiences, feeling their skin goosebump at points where the breeze is calm, and the atmosphere seems charged with unseen energy. These abrupt temperature changes often coincide with reports of whispers or shadowy sightings, heightening the impression of a subtle, yet persistent, supernatural presence. The trail's environment plays a significant role in these experiences. Dense clusters of trees line much of the path, creating pockets of shadow in areas where natural light disappears rapidly at dusk. Reflections off the lake's surface can distort perception, making ordinary movements in the distance appear more ambiguous or threatening. Narrow bridges and secluded spots enhance the feeling of isolation, while the gentle lapping of water and rustle of leaves can create sounds that seem deliberate or purposeful. Even the ambient urban noise of Austin can contribute, echoing faintly across the lake or along the trail, blending with whispers and creating an auditory illusion of voices from nowhere. All these factors combine to produce an environment that is both beautiful and subtly unsettling, particularly for those visiting at night. Local lore and anecdotal accounts offer additional context to the reported phenomena. Lady Bird Lake and its surrounding trails have long been sites of human activity, from early indigenous settlements to modern recreational use. Some speculate that the energy of past lives may linger in the area, manifesting as fleeting shadows, whispers, or temperature shifts. Others suggest that the phenomena are residual echoes of emotional events or simple tricks of perception amplified by the trail's natural acoustics and visual cues. Regardless of explanation, the stories have become part of the trail's identity, attracting curious hikers, urban explorers, and paranormal enthusiasts seeking first-hand experiences. Visitors who encounter these unexplained events often report a mixture of fascination and unease. The shadows, whispers, and chills create a sense of being connected to something beyond the ordinary, a presence that is unseen yet perceptible. Some describe it as comforting, as though the trail itself is alive and aware of those walking its paths, while others find the sensations unsettling, prompting them to quicken their pace or leave the area. These encounters, subtle or pronounced, contribute to the trail's mystique, transforming a familiar urban space into a location where perception, history, and unexplained activity intersect. Despite its reputation for paranormal activity, Lady Bird Lake Hike and Bike Trail remains a cherished part of Austin. By day, it offers natural beauty, recreational opportunities, and a peaceful retreat in the heart of the city. By night, it provides an experience layered with mystery, where ordinary elements, shadows, sounds, the feel of the breeze become infused with subtle suggestions of the supernatural. Those who explore the trail after dark often find themselves attentive to every movement and sound, aware that the park's beauty is matched by its enigmatic presence. In this way, Lady Bird Lake becomes more than a trail. It is a space where the living brush against echoes of the unseen. A place where the familiar and the mysterious coexist in a delicate, unforgettable balance. Molly Holler Park in Fort Worth, Texas, is a familiar place for families, joggers, and dog walkers, offering wide-open spaces, playgrounds, and shaded trails along the edge of the Trinity River. By day, the park is lively, with the laughter of children, the hum of conversation, and the occasional bark of a dog chasing a ball across the grass. But as evening falls and the crowds dissipate, the atmosphere shifts, and many locals have reported experiences that suggest Molly Holler Park is more than a simple recreational space. Ghostly children playing, footsteps echoing in empty playgrounds, and whispers that mimic conversations have all been reported, creating an eerie layer beneath the park's daytime charm. One of the most frequently recounted phenomena involves the sounds of children at play. Visitors after dark often report hearing laughter, squeals, and the unmistakable sounds of children running or playing on swings and slides, even when the park is empty. A jogger recounting a late evening run describes slowing near the playground when she heard the squeak of swings moving and the distant giggle of children. As she approached, the noises abruptly stopped, leaving only the quiet hum of the night and the shadows of the stationary playground equipment. These phantom sounds are not consistent with animals or wind. Witnesses consistently describe them as distinctly human, full of energy and life, as if echoing the presence of children who no longer visit the park. Footsteps in empty areas of the park are another commonly reported experience. Individuals walking along the trails or near the playgrounds have described hearing the sound of small feet running or pattering on pavement, dirt, or gravel, only to find the paths completely empty when they stop to investigate. One father, walking his dog near the basketball courts, heard what sounded like a group of children running behind him, quickening their pace as if in pursuit. Each time he turned to look, however, no one was visible, and the only sound remaining was the rustle of leaves in the evening breeze. Many visitors report similar experiences, the footsteps echoing and fading in a manner that feels deliberate, as if the unseen children are aware of being observed yet remain just out of sight. Whispers that mimic conversation further enhance the park's mysterious reputation. Visitors have reported hearing low murmurs that sound like snippets of dialogue, sometimes in a familiar tone or accent, but fading before they can make sense of the words. One woman described walking past a picnic area when she heard two voices debating something she could not fully understand. When she paused to listen, the conversation stopped, and no one was present. Others have reported whispers calling their names or repeating phrases they had just spoken aloud, creating the unnerving impression that the park is aware of them, responding in subtle, ghostly ways. These auditory phenomena are often accompanied by a sense of being watched, reinforcing the impression that unseen presences linger in the park after dark. The park's layout and natural environment contribute to these experiences. Tall oak and pecan trees line much of the trails, casting long shadows that stretch across pathways and playgrounds as the sun sets. The dense foliage and winding trails create areas where movement can go unnoticed, amplifying the effect of fleeting glimpses or sounds. The wooden playground equipment and asphalt courts reflect sound in unpredictable ways, making footsteps and laughter carry unnaturally far or appear to move from one location to another. Even the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant murmur of traffic can become part of the illusion, blending with phantom sounds to create a sense of life where none exists. Local lore provides context for these reports. While Molly Holler Park is relatively modern in terms of development, the surrounding area has a long history of settlement. Some speculate that the spirits of children who once lived nearby linger in the park, their energy manifesting as playful sounds and fleeting movement. Others suggest that the park's playgrounds and open spaces, which encourage imagination and activity, create a resonance that can amplify residual sounds and emotional echoes from the past. Whatever the explanation, the stories have become part of the park's identity, whispered among locals and shared by those who explore the park after sunset. Visitors who encounter these phenomena often describe a mixture of fascination and unease, The laughter of unseen children can feel both joyful and haunting, as though a fragment of the past is replaying in the present. The footsteps and whispers suggest a presence, aware of those walking the paths, following silently, and interacting in ways that defy explanation. Some visitors leave the park quickly after experiencing these occurrences, while others remain curious to see if the mysterious activity will continue. For those who engage with the park at night, Molly Holler transforms from a simple recreational space into a location where the ordinary intersects with the supernatural and where the energy of the unseen is palpable in every sound and shadow. Despite the reports of paranormal activity, Molly Holler Park remains a cherished space for the community. By day, it is filled with the laughter and movement of real children, families enjoying the open air, and people connecting with nature. By night, however, it becomes a place where the echoes of the unseen appear to mingle with the living world, offering experiences that are subtle, eerie, and unforgettable. For those who walk the paths after dark, the park offers more than just exercise or solitude. It provides a glimpse into a hidden layer of presence, a space where the spirit of play and the unknown coexist in a delicate, haunting balance. River Legacy Parks in Arlington, Texas, stretches along the Trinity River, with miles of wooded trails, open meadows, and quiet riverbanks. By day, the park is a haven for families, joggers, cyclists, and nature enthusiasts, with the sunlight filtering through the trees and the gentle river providing a calm backdrop. But as the sun dips below the horizon and the crowds thin, the park takes on a different, more mysterious character. Visitors often report seeing figures dressed in old pioneer clothing along the trails, hearing unexplained sounds near the river, and hearing whispers in places where no one else is present, giving the park an eerie, otherworldly quality that has intrigued locals for decades. The first and most commonly reported phenomenon involves sightings of figures in period clothing. Walkers and cyclists often describe glimpsing people dressed in 19th-century pioneer attire along the trails or near the riverbank. One evening, a couple strolling near a secluded section of the river noticed a tall figure wearing a long coat and wide-brimmed hat standing silently among the trees. When they approached, the figure seemed to dissolve into the shadows, leaving only the rustle of leaves in its place. These apparitions are typically fleeting and seen only from the corner of the eye, vanishing when directly observed, which lends an unsettling and dreamlike quality to the encounters. Many speculate that these figures may be echoes of early settlers who once traversed the same lands, their presence lingering long after their time. Unexplained sounds along the river are another common experience reported by visitors. People walking the riverbanks at dusk or after dark often hear splashing, footsteps on muddy trails, or the creak of wooden boats, even when no one else is in sight. One night, a solo hiker described hearing the distant sound of oars hitting water, accompanied by a low, murmuring conversation. When she turned to investigate, the river was empty, its surface smooth and undisturbed except for the occasional ripple from the breeze. These auditory phenomena are unnerving because they are so vividly human, yet impossible to attribute to any visible source, creating the sensation that someone or something is walking and speaking along the river unseen. Whispering voices are a particularly unsettling aspect of River Legacy Park's reputation. Visitors report hearing soft murmurs in areas where no one else is present, often echoing their own movements or repeating fragments of words they had just spoken. A man jogging along a shaded trail recounted hearing whispers calling his name, faint at first, then gradually more insistent, as if following his pace. Every time he paused, the voices seemed to recede, only to resume when he started moving again. Others describe hearing conversations in unknown languages or tones, indistinct yet unmistakably human, adding a layer of psychological tension to an already mysterious environment. The natural environment of River Legacy Parks amplifies these experiences. Dense stands of oak, pecan, and cedar trees create pockets of shadow and areas of visual ambiguity, especially as twilight falls. The winding trails and secluded spots along the river make it easy to feel isolated, even within the city limits. The river itself, reflecting moonlight and rustling leaves, can create illusions of movement or sound. Natural echoes carry whispers or footsteps in unexpected directions, giving the impression that unseen presences are nearby. Even the breeze, shifting through the trees and along the water, can sound like subtle murmuring or movement, blurring the line between the ordinary and the unexplained. Local lore adds further intrigue to these phenomena. River Legacy Parks occupies land that was once part of early Texan settlements, and many believe the spirits of pioneers and early settlers linger in the area. Some speculate that the sightings and sounds are residual energy, replaying fragments of the lives and routines of those who came before. Others think that these experiences are a psychological response to the park's quiet, isolated spaces combined with its natural acoustics and shadowed trails. Whatever the explanation, the stories have become part of the park's mystique, shared by residents, hikers, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Those who experience these unexplained events often describe a mixture of fascination and unease. The pioneer figures evoke a sense of historical connection, as though the past is stepping briefly into the present. The river sounds and whispers contribute to a feeling of being accompanied by unseen eyes and ears, heightening awareness of the environment and creating a palpable tension. Some visitors leave the park quickly after experiencing these phenomena, while others linger, curious to see if the apparitions or whispers will recur. For many, the combination of natural beauty and subtle supernatural presence transforms River Legacy Parks into a place of wonder, mystery, and gentle fear. Despite its reputation for eerie experiences, River Legacy Parks remains a beloved recreational area. Families continue to enjoy picnics, joggers traverse the trails, and birdwatchers appreciate the natural diversity along the river. Shadows seem alive, sounds take on an uncanny quality, and the whispers of the unseen create an atmosphere that is both enchanting and unsettling. Visitors who venture onto the trails after dark often find themselves acutely aware of every movement and sound, realizing that River Legacy Parks is more than just a green space. It is a location where history, nature, and the unexplained converge in a subtle, unforgettable way. McKinney Falls State Park in Austin, Texas, is known for its stunning waterfalls, rugged limestone cliffs, and winding trails along Onion Creek. By day, the park is alive with the laughter of families, the chatter of hikers, and the splashing of kayakers in the creek. The sun illuminates the rolling hills and cascading waters, creating a serene and inviting atmosphere for visitors. Locals and nighttime explorers have reported ghostly encounters that suggest McKinney Falls is more than a scenic retreat. It is a place haunted by the spirits of early settlers, echoing voices over the water and shadowy figures moving along the creek paths, giving the park an eerie and mysterious reputation. Many of the reported sightings involve the spirits of early settlers who once inhabited the land. Visitors have described ghostly figures dressed in period clothing, wandering the trails, standing silently by the waterfalls, or disappearing into the forested areas. One hiker recalled walking along the Onion Creek Trail at twilight when she saw a man in a long coat and wide-brimmed hat near the upper falls. He appeared to be observing the water, as though contemplating something profound. Yet as she approached, he simply vanished, leaving the gentle rush of the falls and the rustling of leaves behind. Others have reported seeing women and children in 19th-century attire, moving through the trees or pausing at the limestone cliffs, only to vanish when observed directly. These figures often appear in peripheral vision, fleeting and intangible, creating a sense that the past lingers just beyond immediate perception. Voices echoing over the water add another layer of unsettling activity. Many visitors report hearing fragments of conversations, laughter, or cries that seem to drift across the creek from no discernible source. One evening, a camper sitting near the lower falls described hearing voices arguing in tones that felt both urgent and distressed. The sounds seemed to rise from the creek itself and were audible even though no other campers were nearby. In other instances, hikers have reported whispers that repeat words they themselves have spoken, as if the land is listening and responding. These auditory phenomena are often most pronounced near the waterfalls or along quieter, less traveled trails, enhancing the sense of a presence lingering in the park long after the day's activities have ended. Shadowy figures along the creek paths are another common phenomenon. As daylight fades, long shadows stretch across the limestone walkways, creating shapes that seem to move independently. Hikers have reported seeing silhouettes flitting between trees, pausing on trail edges, or appearing to follow them silently. One visitor, walking her dog at dusk, felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched, hearing footsteps that matched her own pace. When she turned, there was no one there, but the presence remained palpable, lingering until she exited the trail. These figures are typically intangible, leaving no footprints or physical evidence, yet their presence is strongly felt, giving visitors a profound sense that they are sharing the space with something unseen. The natural environment of McKinney Falls contributes to these eerie experiences. Limestone cliffs, dense foliage, and winding creek paths create a landscape where sound and shadow behave unpredictably. The sound of running water over the falls can carry and distort, turning distant noises into echoes that resemble voices. The rustling of leaves or the snap of a twig can feel deliberate and human-like in the context of the park's shadows. Moonlight and fading daylight play across the trees and rocks, casting moving shapes that seem alive. These environmental elements combine with the historic resonance of the park to create an atmosphere that feels both beautiful and haunted, blurring the line between natural and supernatural. Local lore further reinforces the park's spectral reputation. McKinney Falls sits on land with a rich history of early settlement in the Austin area. Stories passed down through generations tell of pioneers who lived, worked, and sometimes perished on this land. Accidents, hardships, and the simple passage of time are believed to have left traces of energy, creating what some describe as residual hauntings. Many visitors and paranormal enthusiasts speculate that the apparitions, voices, and shadowy figures are echoes of lives once lived here, memories imprinted on the land that replay under the right conditions. Others believe that these experiences may be influenced by the park's quiet isolation at night, combined with its striking natural features and long historical presence. Those who encounter these phenomena often describe a mixture of awe and unease. Seeing a pioneer figure pause by the waterfalls, hearing whispers drift across the creek, or noticing shadows moving along the trails creates a tangible link to the past, as well as a reminder of the unknown. Some visitors leave the park quickly after such experiences, unsettled by the sense of presence. Others linger, fascinated by the idea that history is not entirely gone, that the park is alive with memories and spirits that remain even after more than a century. Despite its reputation for ghostly activity, McKinney Falls State Park remains a popular destination for hiking, camping, and exploring nature. Families continue to enjoy its trails, kayakers paddle its waters, and visitors marvel at the limestone cliffs and waterfalls. Yet for those who walk the paths at dusk or venture into the quieter, less traveled areas, the park offers an entirely different experience. Ghostly settlers may appear along the trails, whispers echo over the water, and shadowy figures move silently in the twilight. In these moments, McKinney Falls transforms from a scenic natural attraction into a place where history lingers. Memories walk beside the living, and the unseen remains just beyond the edge of perception. White Rock Lake Park in Dallas, Texas, is celebrated for its sprawling waters, lush parklands, and scenic walking and biking trails. By day, the lake is alive with kayakers, joggers, picnickers, and families enjoying the sunshine along its tree-lined shores. The gentle lapping of water against the docks and the calls of waterfowl create a serene atmosphere, inviting visitors to relax and connect with nature. Yet, as the sun dips below the horizon and evening settles over the park, the familiar landscape transforms. Locals and nighttime visitors have reported strange and unsettling experiences. Phantom rowers gliding across the lake, unexplained ripples and shadows, and soft whispers that drift along the walking trails. suggesting that White Rock Lake is not only a natural haven, but a place haunted by the lingering presence of the past. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves ghostly rowers on the lake. Visitors have described seeing figures in old-fashioned boats, gliding silently across the water under the dim glow of twilight or the pale light of the moon. One jogger, running along the lake's eastern trail at dusk, recounted seeing a lone rower in a wooden scull, dressed in early 20th century attire, rowing with perfect rhythm, yet leaving no trail of splashes. As she slowed to watch, the figure disappeared, leaving the lake calm and undisturbed. Others have reported seeing entire crews in vintage rowing outfits, rowing in unison as if participating in a race that no longer exists. These apparitions often appear fleetingly in the distance, vanishing the instant they are observed directly, creating an eerie sense that history is repeating itself just out of reach. Unexplained ripples and shadows on the water are another hallmark of White Rock Lake's spectral activity. Evening visitors have described sudden disturbances in the lake's surface, as though invisible boats or swimmers are moving beneath the water. At times, the ripples form concentric circles, spreading across otherwise still waters, without any visible cause. Shadowy shapes occasionally appear near the shoreline or beneath docks, moving just beyond the eye's clarity. One fisherman recalled watching a shadow shift beneath the water near the park's west dock, then vanish when he leaned closer. These disturbances often coincide with the appearance of ghostly rowers or figures along the shore, heightening the sense that unseen presences are active across the lake at night. Soft whispers along the walking trails add another layer of the park's haunting atmosphere. Visitors strolling the paths after sunset report hearing voices, fragmented sentences, names being called, or low murmurs that seem to drift from nowhere in particular. Some describe the whispers as friendly, almost conversational, while others find them unsettling, like echoes of long-forgotten conversations. A cyclist riding the trail at night once recounted hearing a faint voice say his name, carried by the wind from the treeline. When he stopped and looked, no one was there. Others have reported hearing whispered laughter, the faint murmur of a conversation, or the urgent tone of a warning, all without seeing another living soul. The combination of darkness, dense tree lines, and natural echoes makes it difficult to locate the source, enhancing the impression of a presence moving unseen among the walkers. The natural environment of White Rock Lake Park amplifies these experiences. Expansive waters reflect the moonlight, creating shifting patterns of light and shadow that play tricks on the eyes. Trails lined with thick foliage and towering oaks can distort sounds, carrying whispers farther than expected and making footsteps echo unnaturally. The gentle rustle of leaves, the splash of fish, or the flap of a bird's wings often coincides with reports of ghostly activity, blurring the line between natural and supernatural. Even familiar landmarks, like the stone bridges and park docks, can cast shifting shadows that appear to move with a life of their own. The combination of water, light, and dense parklands makes the area uniquely conducive to experiences that feel both eerie and otherworldly. Local lore and historical context also contribute to the park's haunted reputation. White Rock Lake has a long history as a recreational and residential area dating back over a century. Stories of early rowers, picnickers, and settlers who once frequented the lake have circulated for generations. Some speculate that the ghostly rowers and voices are residual energies left behind by those who spent their lives on or near the water. Others believe the lake itself acts as a conduit, preserving the memories and emotions of those long gone, replaying fragments of past life under the right conditions. Whatever the cause, these stories have become part of the park's identity, shared by locals, visitors, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Those who experience the park's hauntings often describe a mixture of awe and unease, observing a phantom rower gliding silently across the water, hearing faint whispers among the trees, or watching shadows shift unnaturally along the shoreline evokes a tangible connection to the past while reminding visitors of the unknown. Some choose to leave quickly, unsettled by the experience, while others linger, fascinated by the thought that history and memory continue to inhabit the lake after dark. These encounters transform White Rock Lake from a familiar urban park into a space where the living and the lingering unseen intersect. Despite its reputation for ghostly activity, White Rock Lake Park remains a beloved recreational destination. Families walk and cycle the trails, kayakers enjoy the waters, and visitors revel in the natural beauty during the day. But for those who venture after sunset or explore the quieter corners of the lake, the park offers an entirely different experience. Ghostly rowers glide across the water, shadows move mysteriously along the shoreline, and whispers echo softly among the trees. In these moments, White Rock Lake Park is not just a parkette, it's a place where the past lingers, where the unseen watches, and where the ordinary becomes uncanny under the veil of night. Lake Pflugerville in Texas is known for its tranquil waters, scenic trails, and recreational activities during the day. Families gather to fish, joggers make their way along the winding paths, and cyclists enjoy the open spaces surrounding the lake. Yet as the sun sets and darkness envelops the area, the serene landscape transforms into something far more mysterious. Locals have long shared stories of whispering voices near the water, shadows flitting among the trees, and ghostly apparitions that vanish into the lake as quickly as they appear. These accounts give Lake Pflugerville a reputation as a place where the ordinary shifts into the uncanny under the veil of night. Visitors who walk the trails after dusk often report hearing voices carried on the breeze. These whispers are usually soft, fragmented, and seem to come from no one in particular. Some describe the voices calling their names or repeating phrases they themselves have spoken, creating a chilling impression that the lake itself is listening. One jogger told of running near the northern edge of the lake when he distinctly heard a woman's voice calling his name from the dense trees. He stopped, scanned the area, but saw nothing, no figure, no movement, only the quiet rustle of leaves in the night wind. The whispers often vanish as suddenly as they appear, leaving visitors unsure if they truly heard anything at all. Shadows moving among the trees are another commonly reported phenomenon. Hikers and nighttime visitors describe seeing dark forms darting between trunks, pause at the edge of the trail, or simply fade into the darkness. One local recounted standing on a small footbridge when he noticed a figure moving along the lakeshore. It appeared human in shape, but was impossibly still, almost floating. When he took a step toward it, the figure vanished, leaving only the reflection of the moon on the water. Many speculate that these shadows are spirits of the past, wandering along the places they once frequented, while others think they may be memories or residual energy tied to the lake itself. Perhaps the most unsettling reports involve apparitions seen near or on the water. Witnesses have described ghostly figures standing at the water's edge or floating above the surface, vanishing suddenly as they are approached. One angler recounted seeing a translucent figure in early 20th century clothing rise from the water, gaze across the lake, and then disappear into the ripples, leaving the surface calm as if nothing had occurred. Others have reported fleeting reflections in the water of people who do not exist, or ripples that appear without explanation, as though unseen hands are disturbing the surface. These experiences create the unnerving impression that the lake is inhabited by a presence unseen by the ordinary eye. The natural features of Lake Pflugerville contribute to its eerie ambience. The surrounding woods, gently rolling trails, and still waters create perfect conditions for sound and light to behave unpredictably. The wind can carry distant noises, amplifying whispers and making them seem closer than they are. Trees sway and rustle, producing shapes that can be mistaken for moving figures. The reflection of the moon on the lake can distort images, creating brief apparitions or ghostly forms that vanish upon closer inspection. These environmental elements, combined with the lake's quiet isolation after dark, enhance the sensation of being watched or followed, intensifying the haunting experience. Local history adds another layer to the stories surrounding Lake Pflugerville. While the area is known today as a recreational destination, it has a past tied to early settlers, nearby communities, and long-standing local traditions. Some believe that the apparitions, voices, and shadows are echoes of those who once lived and worked in the area, their energy lingering long after death. Folklore, passed down through generations, speaks of restless spirits tied to the water, perhaps drawn to the lake by memories of life, loss, or unfulfilled tasks. Whether the cause is historical or paranormal, these stories have become part of the lake's identity, giving it a reputation that extends beyond its physical beauty. Visitors who experience these phenomena often describe a mix of curiosity, fear, and awe. Seeing shadows that move independently, hearing whispered voices calling from nowhere, or witnessing an apparition vanish into the water can be both thrilling and unsettling. Some leave the area quickly, unsettled by the presence of something unseen. Others linger, captivated by the sense that the lake holds a connection to a past world, a history that continues to manifest in small, inexplicable ways. These encounters create a unique experience, blending natural beauty with the unexplained, and leaving a lasting impression on anyone who witnesses them. Despite the lake's haunted reputation, Lake Pflugerville remains a popular spot for recreation and relaxation. Families continue to fish along the shore, runners traverse the trails, and cyclists enjoy the open spaces. Yet for those who venture out after dark, the lake offers an entirely different encounter. Whispering voices float along the paths. Shadowy figures move silently among the trees, and apparitions appear and vanish over the water. In these moments, Lake Pflugerville transforms from a peaceful city park into a place where the unseen lingers, where history feels alive, and where the ordinary shifts into the extraordinary beneath the night sky. Texas Discovery Gardens in Houston is celebrated for its vibrant flower beds, tropical butterflies, and winding garden paths. By day, families and visitors stroll among colorful blooms, watch butterflies flit from flower to flower, and enjoy the gentle hum of bees and the scent of fresh flowers. The air is filled with life, color, and tranquility, making it a haven for nature enthusiasts and casual visitors alike. Yet as dusk falls and the gardens empty of daytime visitors, an entirely different side of the gardens emerges. Guests and nighttime explorers have reported shadowy figures gliding between flower beds, whispers drifting from the hedges, and cold drafts that chill the air even on warm evenings, giving Texas Discovery Gardens an eerie reputation among locals and paranormal enthusiasts. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves shadowy figures moving through the gardens. Visitors have described dark, human-like shapes gliding silently between rows of flowers, appearing briefly near paths or hidden among hedges, then vanishing without a trace. One volunteer working late in the butterfly house recounted seeing a tall, indistinct figure standing between the hibiscus beds. As she stepped closer, the figure seemed to dissolve into the shadows, leaving only the faint scent of soil and flowers behind. Others have described seeing multiple figures moving together in patterns, as if tending the gardens in some spectral ritual long after the sun has set. These shadowy presences are often fleeting and elusive, caught only in peripheral vision, creating the unnerving sense that the gardens are alive with unseen caretakers. Whispers among the hedges are another common experience. Evening visitors report faint voices that seem to originate from no specific location, drifting through the flower beds and over the paths. Some hear their own names softly called, while others catch fragments of conversations that make no sense in the moment. One guest described walking along a labyrinthine hedge maze at twilight and hearing what sounded like the laughter of children. Soft and distant, yet impossible to locate. At times, these whispers seem to interact with the visitor's own movements, fading as they approach or growing louder when attention is diverted. Adding to the sense of being watched by unseen entities, the combination of dark foliage, hidden corners, and the stillness of evening makes it easy for ordinary sounds to take on an otherworldly quality, amplifying the perception of spectral voices. Cold drafts and warm air are another recurring phenomenon. Many visitors report sudden drops in temperature that seem to appear for no reason, chilling the skin even on a summer night. These cold spots often coincide with the appearance of shadows or whispers, heightening the feeling of a supernatural presence. A horticulturist closing the gardens after an evening event recalled feeling a sudden cold gust near the butterfly garden. though the surrounding air was still and warm. At the same moment, she noticed a dark figure moving between the flower beds, only to vanish when she turned fully to look. The combination of chill and shadow leaves a lingering impression that the gardens are more than they seem, that unseen forces are moving among the blooms. The design of Texas Discovery Gardens contributes to the intensity of these experiences. Winding paths, dense hedges, secluded corners, and the varying heights of flower beds create areas where light and shadow behave unpredictably. Reflections of evening light on petals and leaves can cast strange shapes that appear to move, and the quiet stillness of the gardens at night amplifies every sound. The subtle rustle of leaves, the flutter of a butterfly's wings, or the movement of a branch in the wind can easily be interpreted as signs of a presence. These natural conditions, combined with the historical layers of the gardens and their long history as a cultivated space, create an environment uniquely conducive to ghostly encounters. Local lore and the garden's history contribute to the supernatural reputation. The gardens occupy land that has long been cultivated, with stories of gardeners, families, and caretakers who worked the property across decades. Some speculate that the shadowy figures and whispers are echoes of those who tended the flowers long ago, lingering as residual energy imprinted on the landscape. Others believe that the gardens act as a magnet for unexplained phenomena, a place where the boundary between the living and the unseen is thinner. Whether interpreted as historical echoes or genuine paranormal activity, these stories have become part of the identity of Texas Discovery Gardens, shared among staff, locals, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Guests who experience these phenomena often describe a combination of wonder and unease. Seeing figures gliding between flower beds, hearing whispers drift from the hedges, or feeling an inexplicable chill creates a tangible connection to the past while reminding visitors of the unknown. Some leave the gardens quickly, unsettled by the sense of being watched, while others linger, drawn by the idea that life, memory, and spirit continue to inhabit the space after dark. These experiences transform Texas Discovery Gardens from a daytime attraction into a place where the ordinary intersects with the mysterious. Despite its haunted reputation, Texas Discovery Gardens continues to welcome visitors of all ages. Families enjoy the butterfly house, hikers stroll the trails, and gardeners tend to the vibrant plantings during the day. Yet for those who wander after sunset or explore the quieter, shadowed corners, the gardens offer an entirely different experience. Shadowy figures move silently between flower beds, whispers drift from hidden hedges, and cold drafts brush across the skin without explanation. In these moments, Texas Discovery Gardens transforms from a peaceful botanical retreat into a place where history, memory, and the unseen intertwine, leaving a lasting impression of beauty tinged with mystery. The Pearl Fincher Museum and Park in Houston is renowned for its art exhibitions, tranquil gardens, and open spaces that attract artists, families, and visitors seeking a quiet escape. By day, the museum's galleries showcase intricate artworks, while the surrounding park offers shaded walking trails, koi ponds, and blooming flower beds. Children play on the lawns, couples stroll beneath the trees, and the atmosphere is one of serenity and cultural enrichment. Yet, as daylight fades and the museum closes its doors, some visitors and staff report experiences that transform the museum and park from a peaceful cultural haven into a place tinged with the unexplained. Footsteps echo through empty galleries, whispers drift from abandoned corners, and ghostly apparitions appear near the gardens only to vanish moments later, leaving a lingering sense of presence and mystery. One of the most commonly reported experiences involves footsteps heard in empty galleries. Visitors who linger late or staff closing for the night have described the unmistakable sound of shoes tapping against polished floors, moving deliberately along the hallways. On several occasions, employees have recounted hearing footsteps approaching from one gallery only to stop abruptly when investigated, leaving the space empty. One security guard on the night shift shared a chilling encounter while performing a routine check. He heard slow, deliberate steps, pacing near a display of modern sculptures. When he turned the corner, there was no one. Yet the sound continued, fading gradually into silence. These unexplained steps suggest the presence of spectral, something moving among the exhibits long after the museum has emptied. Whispers in abandoned areas of the museum and park are another common phenomenon. Late-night visitors have described hearing faint, unintelligible voices, often carried along corridors or through the outdoor gardens. Some report names being whispered softly, while others hear fragments of sentences, as though past conversations linger in the air. One visitor, exploring the outdoor sculpture garden just before closing, recalled hearing two distinct voices conversing in the dark, only to find the area completely empty. When she investigated, the whispers often vanish as abruptly as they appear, creating an unsettling sense that the museum and park hold memories of events, conversations, and presences that persist beyond their physical existence. The museum's gardens are also a frequent site of paranormal sightings. Visitors report apparitions appearing near the flower beds, koi ponds, and walkways, only to fade away when approached. One evening, a couple walking the paths noticed a figure standing silently near a flowering magnolia tree. It appeared human in shape, dressed in clothing that suggested an earlier era, yet when they approached, it disappeared without a trace. Others have described fleeting glimpses of figures gliding past sculptures or hovering near benches, leaving no footprints or disturbances behind. These sightings often occur at twilight or after dark, suggesting a connection between low light, shadow, and the manifestation of these apparitions. The architecture and layout of Pearl Fincher Museum and Park contribute to the eerie atmosphere. Galleries are often long and open, with polished floors that amplify sounds and echo footsteps unnaturally. Nooks, corners, and alcoves provide spaces for shadows to play tricks on the eyes, while large windows offer glimpses of the garden that can distort reflections or allow light to create phantom images. Outdoors, winding paths, dense foliage, and softly flowing water produce a combination of natural sounds and visual effects that can heighten the impression of unseen movement. The interplay between interior and exterior spaces makes the museum uniquely suited for experiences that feel both mysterious and tangible. Historical and local context adds another layer to the stories surrounding the museum and park. While the Pearl Fincher Museum itself is relatively modern, the land has a long history of settlement, and some speculate that lingering energy from previous occupants or events contributes to the unusual occurrences. Locals have shared tales of previous buildings or residences on the site, suggesting that some of the apparitions or sounds could be residual echoes of the past. Paranormal enthusiasts visiting the park often connect the experiences of footsteps, whispers, and vanishing figures to this history, considering the site a place where past and present converge. Those who encounter these phenomena often describe a mixture of curiosity, fear, and wonder. Footsteps echoing in empty galleries can evoke a sense of someone walking silently alongside, while whispers and voices suggest hidden presences observing or attempting to communicate. Apparitions in the gardens offer fleeting glimpses of figures that belong to another time, bridging the line between the living world and whatever remains unseen. Some visitors leave quickly, unnerved by the sense of being watched, while others linger, drawn by the idea that the museum and park are home to experiences beyond ordinary perception. Despite its haunted reputation, Pearl Fincher Museum and Park continues to serve the public as a space for art, reflection, and recreation. Families visit the gardens, artists display and enjoy their work, and the museum hosts educational programs and exhibitions. Yet for those who explore after hours or find themselves alone in the galleries or along the paths, the museum and park reveal another dimension. Footsteps echo where no one walks, whispers drift through empty corners, and ghostly figures appear and vanish among the flowers. In these moments, Pearl Fincher Museum and Park becomes more than a cultural landmark, transforms into a place where history, memory, and the unseen converge, leaving a lasting impression of beauty intertwined with mystery. Herman Park in Houston is a sprawling urban oasis known for its beautiful gardens, golf courses, walking trails, and historic landmarks. By day, families picnic under sprawling oak trees, joggers trace the paved paths, and golfers practice their swings across the manicured greens. The park pulses with life, laughter, and the energy of the city surrounding it. Yet, as twilight descends and the park empties of daytime visitors, Herman Park transforms into a place where the ordinary shifts into the uncanny. Locals and nighttime wanderers have reported lost souls wandering the golf course, shadowy figures glimpsed in the trees, and voices calling out from nowhere, leaving an impression that the park holds secrets far older and stranger than its daytime beauty suggests. One of the most frequently reported phenomena in Herman Park occurs on the golf course after dark. Visitors and late-night maintenance staff have recounted seeing figures walking along the greens, often appearing as faint silhouettes just beyond the reach of streetlights or moonlight. These apparitions are described as moving slowly and deliberately, occasionally pausing to stare into the distance or at those who pass by. One golfer, who stayed late to practice, reported seeing a figure in old-fashioned attire, slowly strolling across the fairway, carrying a golf club, only to vanish when approached. Others have described feeling the sense of being observed while on the course, with footsteps echoing nearby, yet when they turned to look, no one was present. The presence of these wandering figures suggests a haunting rooted in the history and memories embedded in the park itself. Shadowy figures among the trees are another commonly reported occurrence. The park's dense oak and pine groves create a natural canopy that casts long, shifting shadows as daylight fades. Evening visitors describe fleeting glimpses of dark forms moving silently among the foliage, sometimes appearing perched on low branches or standing motionless along pathways. One visitor recounted walking a secluded trail near the McGovern Centennial Gardens when she noticed a shadow at the edge of the tree line. As she stepped closer, the figure seemed to dissolve into the darkness, leaving only the rustling of leaves and the faint scent of damp earth. These sightings are often sudden and brief, heightening the feeling that the park itself is alive with unseen presences. Perhaps the most unsettling experiences at Herman Park are the unexplained voices that seem to emanate from nowhere. Visitors have described hearing their names called softly, faint laughter echoing through empty paths, or disembodied murmurs that appear to float on the night air. A jogger reported hearing multiple voices conversing in hushed tones near the reflection pool, only to find the area deserted. Others recount hearing urgent warnings or whispered phrases as they pass along the golf course or near the wooded areas, leaving them with an overwhelming sense that they are not alone. These voices often appear to respond to movement or attention, fading as visitors turn to locate the source, reinforcing the park's eerie reputation. The layout and natural features of Herman Park contribute to the intensity of these experiences. The combination of open fairways, shaded groves, winding trails, and bodies of water creates spaces where sound and light behave unpredictably. Footsteps can echo unnaturally across the fairway or trails, while shadows cast by trees and foliage can create the illusion of movement. Reflections on ponds or fountains sometimes create ghostly images that vanish as observers shift their gaze. Even slight changes in temperature or wind can add to the sensation of something unseen brushing past. These environmental factors, paired with the stillness that comes with nighttime, amplify the perception of the supernatural throughout the park. Historical context further deepens the haunting lore of Herman Park. Established in the early 20th century, the park has served countless generations of Houstonians. Over the decades, stories of accidents, lost children, and unclaimed tragedies have circulated, giving rise to speculation that some of the reported apparitions are echoes of past lives or events. Locals speak of spirits lingering in the park's most quiet and secluded areas, their energy imprinting itself on the land, gardens, and trails. Some paranormal enthusiasts suggest that the park acts as a gathering point for these lingering presences, particularly in areas that see little human activity at night. Those who encounter the unexplained in Herman Park often describe a mixture of awe and unease. seeing a shadow moving among the trees, hearing footsteps echo across the golf course, or listening to a whisper carried on the breeze creates an immediate connection to the park's unseen history. Some leave quickly, unsettled by the sense of being watched, while others remain, drawn by the possibility of witnessing the extraordinary. These experiences transform an ordinary evening stroll into a haunting journey, where the line between the living and the spectral blurs. Despite its haunted reputation, Herman Park remains a beloved destination for recreation, relaxation, and culture. Families continue to picnic beneath the oaks, golfers traverse the greens, and visitors explore the gardens by day. Yet those who venture into the park after dark may find themselves walking among shadows, hearing disembodied voices, or encountering wandering figures on empty fairways. In these quiet hours, Herman Park shifts from a familiar urban retreat into a realm where history, memory, and the unseen coexist, leaving visitors with an unforgettable sense of beauty tinged with mystery. Memorial Park in Houston is a sprawling urban oasis, known for its winding jogging trails, dense groves of trees, and open spaces that offer a respite from the city's bustle. By day, it is a lively scene. Runners trace the familiar loops, families picnic along the grassy expanses, and cyclists navigate the tree-lined paths. The park is alive with birdsong, the rustle of leaves, and the distant hum of traffic. But as the sun sets and fog drifts across the trails, the park takes on a different atmosphere, one that many locals and joggers describe as eerie, filled with sights, sounds, and sensations that cannot be easily explained. One of the most common reports involves shadowy figures appearing in the fog. On quiet evenings, visitors have described seeing indistinct silhouettes moving through the mist, sometimes standing still along the trail, other times following at a distance. These figures are often human in shape but lack identifiable features, seeming to shift and blur with the swirling fog. One jogger recounted an encounter while finishing a late-night loop. Rounding a bend, he noticed a figure standing beneath a cluster of trees. As he approached, the shape seemed to dissolve into the mist, leaving him staring into emptiness. Others have reported seeing similar figures vanish just as they attempted to get a closer look, creating the unsettling impression that the park itself is alive with unseen observers. Whispers along the trails are another phenomenon frequently described. Visitors report hearing soft voices that appear to come from nowhere, floating through the trees and across open stretches. Sometimes these whispers are unintelligible murmurs, barely audible above the sound of wind and rustling leaves, while other times they sound like names or short phrases. A jogger recounted hearing his name whispered repeatedly as he passed a fog-laden stretch of trail, only to turn and find no one behind him. The whispers vanish as mysteriously as they appear, leaving those who hear them with a lingering sense of being watched. Perhaps the most unnerving experiences involve footsteps that seem to mimic those of the visitor. Joggers and walkers often report hearing steps behind or beside them that match their pace exactly. One runner described a chilling moment when he stopped mid-stride, and the footsteps continued for several moments before fading. The sensation of being followed without seeing anyone creates a heightened awareness of the surroundings, as if an invisible companion is keeping pace with every move. These experiences amplify the park's sense of mystery, turning ordinary evening walks into encounters charged with suspense. The natural environment of Memorial Park contributes to these eerie occurrences. Winding trails, dense clusters of trees, and low-lying areas where fog settles create spaces where shadows and light play tricks on perception. The interplay of darkness, fog, and natural sound can make ordinary movements appear ghostly and amplify the impression of unseen presences. Rustling leaves, distant animals, and shifting branches often add to the unsettling ambience, blending with the unexplained whispers and footsteps to create a layered, almost theatrical, sense of the paranormal. Local lore and history further add to the park's mystique. The area has long been a site of community gathering, sporting events, and outdoor activities. And over the decades, stories of mysterious happenings have circulated among Houston residents. Some believe that echoes of past events and lingering energies contribute to the phenomena, suggesting that the park holds traces of memory from those who walked its paths before. Others see the experiences as a combination of natural environmental factors and the mind as heightened awareness in foggy, isolated settings. For those who witness these events, the experiences are a mix of fear, fascination, and curiosity. Seeing shadowy figures emerge from the fog, hearing voices that cannot be located, or sensing footsteps perfectly aligned with one's own leaves a lasting impression. Many leave the park quickly, unnerved by the encounters, while others linger, drawn by the enigmatic presence that seems to permeate the space. Memorial Park transforms from a familiar city landmark into a place where ordinary perception collides with the unknown, creating moments of quiet suspense and wonder. Despite its eerie reputation, Memorial Park remains a cherished space for Houston residents. Its trails, open areas, and wooded paths continue to draw visitors during the day, when light and activity mask the subtle mysteries of the night. Yet, as fog rolls in and shadows deepen, the park's other side reveals itself. Figures glide silently through the mist, whispers drift along deserted paths, and footsteps echo where no one walks. In these quiet hours, Memorial Park is not just a park, becomes a place where the boundaries between the visible and unseen blur, leaving an indelible impression on those who venture into its foggy trails. Gallagher Park in San Antonio is a wide, open green space, cherished for its walking paths, picnic areas, and mature trees that provide shade and a sense of calm. By day, families spread blankets across the grass. Children chase frisbees, and joggers trace the trails that wind through the park's open fields and wooded sections. Yet when dusk falls and the park empties of its daytime visitors, some report experiences that transform Gallagher Park from a serene retreat into a place of quiet unease. Shadowy figures appear among the fields, faint whispers drift through the air, and sudden chills linger near the older trees, leaving a lingering sense that the park is home to unseen presences. Shadowy figures are perhaps the most commonly described phenomena. As evening settles over the park, visitors have reported glimpsing dark, indistinct shapes moving through the open fields or along the edges of tree lines. These forms are rarely detailed, often appearing as silhouettes that shift and blend with the gathering darkness. One local jogger shared an encounter on a late evening run. As he crossed a broad field near the park's center, he noticed a shadow standing still near the base of a sprawling oak. When he approached, the figure seemed to dissolve into the dusk, leaving him staring at an empty space. Others have described similar sightings, figures appearing and vanishing without sound or disturbance, suggesting an otherworldly presence observing from the edges of perception. Faint whispers are another phenomenon frequently reported at Gallagher Park. Visitors often hear soft voices that appear to come from nowhere, drifting across the open fields or through the gaps between trees. Sometimes the whispers are unintelligible, mere fragments of words carried on the wind, while other times they sound like names or short phrases. One woman, recounting a late evening stroll, described hearing her name whispered repeatedly as she passed a grove of older trees. When she turned to look, there was no one there, and the sound faded with the rising wind. These whispers are often fleeting, coming and going in moments, yet they leave a powerful impression of a presence lingering just beyond the senses. Cold sensations near the park's older trees add another layer to the eeriness. Visitors and joggers report sudden chills that appear without wind or weather changes, often concentrated near large, gnarled oaks and cedars. A young couple walking along a quiet trail noted that, as they approached a particularly old oak, the temperature seemed to drop sharply, and a sense of weight pressed on the air around them. They felt the hairs on their arms rise and heard the faintest rustle, as if someone or something was moving among the branches. Yet when they looked up, the tree was still. These sudden drops in temperature and the accompanying sensations of being watched are a hallmark of the park's reported paranormal activity. The park's layout and natural features contribute to the intensity of these experiences. Wide open fields, clusters of mature trees, and winding trails create spaces where light and shadow interact unpredictably at dusk. The fading light casts long, shifting shadows across the grass, which can give the impression of movement even when the air is still. The interplay between open space and shadow, combined with the soft evening breeze, amplifies the sense that the park is not entirely empty, even when no one else is present. Historical and local lore also add to Gallagher Park's reputation as a place of quiet mystery. While the park today is a public recreational space, the land has seen decades of activity and change. Older residents have spoken of stories passed down about the park's early days, including unexplained sightings and eerie sounds at twilight. Paranormal enthusiasts visiting the park suggest that these accounts may be echoes of past lives, events, or energies lingering in the area, imprinting themselves on the landscape. Many agree that the park's combination of open fields, mature trees, and evening stillness creates a natural environment for phenomena that feel both real and unsettling. Visitors who encounter these unexplained events often describe a mixture of curiosity, awe, and apprehension. Seeing a shadowy figure shift in the dusk, hearing whispers that cannot be located, or feeling sudden chills near a tree evokes an immediate awareness of the unseen. Some leave the park quickly, unsettled by the sense of being observed, while others linger, drawn by the idea that Gallagher Park is a place where ordinary perception meets something more. These experiences transform routine evening walks into moments of suspense and intrigue, leaving a lasting impression on those who witness them. Despite its reputation for strange occurrences, Gallagher Park remains a beloved destination for residents and visitors alike. During the day, it continues to offer a place for recreation, relaxation, and connection with nature. But as dusk settles and the shadows lengthen, the park takes on a different character. Figures appear in the fading light, whispers drift across open fields, and sudden chills brush past those walking the trails. In these quiet hours, Gallagher Park becomes more than a public green space. It becomes a location where the boundaries between the visible and the unseen blur, leaving a haunting, unforgettable impression that lingers long after visitors have departed. Old Town Spring in Texas is a picturesque area steeped in history, celebrated for its well-preserved 19th-century architecture, quaint shops, and shaded brick streets. Tourists stroll along the sidewalks lined with antique stores and cozy cafes, enjoying the vibrant charm of a town that has preserved its past. By day, the town feels warm and inviting, alive with the chatter of shoppers and the clatter of cafe dishes. Yet, beneath its cheerful surface lies a quieter, more mysterious side. As twilight falls and the sun dips behind the historic rooftops, locals and visitors alike report strange occurrences of apparitions wandering the streets, whispers drifting through the alleyways, and footsteps that echo where no one is walking. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the sighting of ghostly apparitions. These figures are said to appear along the narrow streets and in front of the old shops, often dressed in period clothing reminiscent of the 1800s. Visitors have described seeing men in waistcoats and women in long dresses, their faces blurred or indistinct, moving slowly as though retracing routines from centuries past. A shopkeeper recounted an evening when she looked out her window and saw a group of figures standing near the fountain in the town square. As she blinked, the figures vanished, leaving only the cool evening air and the quiet murmur of the street. Others have reported seeing solitary apparitions walking the alleyways behind the main thoroughfares, disappearing into walls or rounding corners with impossible stealth. Whispering voices are another hallmark of the area's strange occurrences. These sounds are often described as faint and fleeting, drifting through alleyways or echoing along the brick streets in ways that seem to have no source. Locals report hearing conversations that stop abruptly when approached, phrases spoken in tones both urgent and gentle. One visitor told of walking along a dimly lit alley late in the evening when she began hearing whispers just behind her, calling out her name and urging her to look this way or follow me. When she turned, there was no one there. The whispers are not limited to any single location. They seem to follow visitors through the town, emerging in empty storefronts, along quiet side streets, or under old lampposts. Mysterious footsteps are yet another common experience reported at Old Town Spring. Visitors often hear footsteps echoing along the brick streets when the area is deserted, the sound perfectly synchronized with their own steps. A man walking home after a late dinner reported that each time he slowed his pace, the footsteps behind him slowed as well, only to resume when he picked up his speed. Other witnesses described the sensation of being followed by an invisible presence, with the sound of boots or shoes echoing sharply against the stone and brick surfaces of the town. In some cases, the footsteps seemed to lead visitors to corners or alleyways that they did not intend to take, giving the unsettling impression that the town itself is guiding them. The town's architecture and layout contribute to the intensity of these experiences. Narrow streets, shadowed alleyways, and historic buildings create a labyrinth of visual and auditory impressions. Where light and shadow interact unpredictably, the brick roads can amplify sounds, making distant footsteps appear close, while the alleyways can distort both sight and sound, creating fleeting glimpses of movement that vanish before full recognition. Evening mist and the soft glow of gas lamps further enhance the sense of mystery, as fog can obscure familiar landmarks and turn a simple street corner into a scene ripe for ghostly encounters. Historical context adds a layer of explanation and intrigue to the town's haunting. Old Town Spring has long been a site of settlement, trade, and daily life for generations, and the buildings themselves carry the weight of history. It is not uncommon for local historians to recount tales of long-dead settlers, merchants, and townsfolk whose lives were woven into the area's streets. Some believe that the spirits of these past residents linger, replaying moments of their lives, or that the town itself holds residual energy, imprinting memories of the past onto the present. Paranormal enthusiasts have documented numerous accounts of apparitions, whispers, and footsteps, suggesting that the town's charm comes not only from its visible history, but also from its hidden, spectral dimension. Visitors who experience these phenomena often describe a mixture of fascination and unease, witnessing a ghostly figure vanish around a corner, hearing whispers that seem to come from nowhere, or tracking footsteps that echo their own movements evokes a palpable sense of the unknown. Some leave quickly, unsettled by the encounters, while others linger, drawn by the mysterious energy that seems to hover just beyond perception. These experiences create a sense of timelessness, where the town's present-day charm intersects with echoes from the past, transforming a simple evening stroll into an encounter with history itself. Despite its reputation for ghostly activity, Old Town Spring continues to attract visitors from across the region. Its shops, restaurants, and historic sites remain lively during the day, providing a stark contrast to the town's evening transformations. Yet, as dusk settles, a subtle change occurs. Figures emerge in alleyways, whispers drift through the streets, and footsteps echo along empty pathways. In these quiet, mist-filled hours, Old Town Spring reveals a hidden layer, a haunting charm that lingers in the mind long after visitors have left, reminding all who walk its streets that history is never truly gone, and that some presence remains silently watching, softly whispering, and quietly walking among the shadows. Buffalo Bayou Park in Houston stretches along the winding waters of the bayou, offering scenic views, walking trails, and green spaces where city residents can escape the urban bustle. By day, it is a place of life and laughter. Families picnic on the grassy banks, joggers follow the paved trails, and kayakers glide along the water. But as the sun sets and shadows lengthen, a different, more mysterious side of the park emerges. Locals have long reported eerie experiences: shadowy figures crossing bridges, voices echoing across the water, and the occasional glimpse of apparitions said to be early residents of Houston. One of the most common reports involves shadowy figures appearing on the park's bridges. Visitors walking along these spans often describe seeing vague silhouettes standing at the edges, sometimes leaning over the railing, watching the flowing water below. These figures are human in shape but lack clear features, as if their form is only partially present in this world. Some witnesses report that the figures remain motionless, even when approached, only to vanish when they get close. Others describe seeing figures walking purposefully across the bridge, step by step, yet when they turn to follow, the silhouettes are gone, leaving behind only the sound of rustling leaves or the faint creak of the wooden planks. Voices echoing over the water are another phenomenon that many visitors have reported. In the quiet hours of early morning or late evening, the sounds of the city fade, and the bayou takes on an otherworldly stillness. Locals describe hearing whispers or soft conversations carried across the water, though no one is in sight. These voices are sometimes unintelligible murmurs, other times fragments of phrases, calling names or issuing warnings. A runner recounted hearing his own name whispered repeatedly from across the bayou, a chilling sound that seemed to come from nowhere, yet followed him along the trail. At times, the voices appear to emanate from the water itself, as if the bayou is carrying echoes from another time, preserving fragments of the lives that once intersected with its banks. Apparitions of early Houston residents have also been reported along the parks, trails, and waterways. These ghostly figures are often described as dressed in period clothing, long dresses, bonnets, or suits of the 19th century. Witnesses recount seeing them strolling along the trails, standing silently near the water, or appearing momentarily among the trees before disappearing into the darkness. One visitor described pausing near a small footbridge to rest, only to notice a woman in a long dress walking along the opposite bank. As he watched, she turned and looked directly at him, her features obscured, then vanished as if swallowed by the shadows. Others have reported similar sightings, men in old work attire moving along the water's edge, or children playing briefly near the shoreline, only to vanish when approached. The natural environment of Buffalo Bayou Park amplifies these eerie occurrences. The winding waterway, dense clusters of trees, and open spaces create areas where shadows and light interplay in unexpected ways. Evening fog often rolls in along the water, blurring outlines and making movement seem spectral. The gentle flow of the bayou can carry sounds over long distances, so that whispers or footsteps appear to come from places where no one stands. Rustling leaves, shifting branches, and distant wildlife all contribute to the sensation of being watched or followed, adding layers to the unexplained phenomena. Historical context adds further depth to the park's haunted reputation. Buffalo Bayou was central to early Houston, a hub for settlers, traders, and workers. Many believe that the lingering spirits of those who once lived and labored along its banks continue to inhabit the area, manifesting as shadows, whispers, and apparitions. Local historians recount stories of families, merchants, and laborers whose lives were closely tied to the bayou. And some suggest that the park's spectral activity is a form of residual energy, echoes of the past preserved in the landscape. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous accounts of figures appearing along the bridges, voices drifting over the water, and shapes that seem tied to the history of early Houston. For those who experience these phenomena, the encounters are a mixture of awe, curiosity, and unease. Seeing a shadowy figure standing at the edge of a bridge, hearing whispers from an empty trail, or catching a glimpse of a ghostly apparition along the water leaves a lasting impression. Many visitors quickly leave, unnerved by the unknown presence, while others linger, fascinated by the mystery that seems woven into the park itself. Each encounter reinforces the sense that Buffalo Bayou Park is more than a public green space. It is a place where past and present coexist, where history lingers not only in records and stories, but also in the very atmosphere that envelops its trails and bridges. Despite these ghostly accounts, Buffalo Bayou Park remains a popular destination for Houstonians and tourists alike. Its walking and biking paths, kayak launches, and scenic views attract crowds during daylight hours, when the park's charm is rooted in its natural beauty and recreational opportunities. But as night falls, the park takes on a different character. Shadowy figures appear along bridges, whispers drift across the water, and ghostly apparitions of early residents emerge in fleeting glimpses. In these quiet, mist-shrouded hours, Buffalo Bayou Park is transformed. The familiar trails and waterways become a stage for encounters with the unseen, a reminder that the city's history is never fully gone, and that sometimes the past reaches out in subtle, spectral ways to touch the present. Trinity Park in Fort Worth stretches along the winding Trinity River, offering a mix of green spaces, walking and biking trails, and scenic river views. During the day, it is a place of life and activity, with families strolling along the paths, joggers keeping pace, and children playing in open fields. The park exudes a welcoming charm, the sound of birds and the rustling of leaves creating a serene atmosphere. Yet, as daylight fades, the park transforms into a place where the familiar becomes unsettling, and visitors sometimes encounter phenomena that hint at something unseen. Locals and trailgoers have reported ghostly figures along the pathways, faint whispers in empty areas, and sudden chills that seem to emerge without cause, leaving a lingering sense of mystery and unease. One of the most frequently mentioned experiences involves ghostly figures appearing along the trails. Visitors walking in the early morning or late evening sometimes see shadowy shapes among the trees or along the riverbank. These figures are often described as humanoid but indistinct, their outlines blurred as though caught between this world and another. A couple jogging along one of the quieter trails recalled seeing a man in vintage clothing step onto the path ahead of them, pausing as if watching them pass. When they approached, the figure had vanished, leaving only the soft rustle of leaves and the faint echo of footsteps on the trail. Others report seeing multiple figures walking together in areas where no one else is present, moving slowly and deliberately before disappearing into the shadows. Faint whispers are another hallmark of Trinity Park's mysterious side. In empty stretches of the trail or secluded corners of the park, visitors have described hearing soft murmurs that seem to drift through the air. These whispers often appear to come from no discernible source, just beyond earshot, and are sometimes accompanied by the sensation of being observed. A lone cyclist recounted riding along a wooded section of the trail when he heard a low voice calling his name. Startled, he stopped and looked around, but the area was completely empty. The whispers are often unintelligible, fleeting fragments of speech that vanish when one tries to focus on them. Yet they leave a profound impression, as if the park itself holds memories of past conversations, carried on the wind through time. Sudden, unexplained chills are another commonly reported phenomenon. Visitors often describe a drop in temperature or a cold breeze that seems isolated to a particular spot, occurring even on warm days or in the absence of wind. These chills can be accompanied by goosebumps, the feeling of eyes watching from the shadows, or an overwhelming sense of unease. One walker reported feeling a sudden chill near a bench overlooking the river, followed by the fleeting image of a woman in a long dress gliding across the path. Another visitor felt a cold gust sweep over them while standing in a sunlit clearing. Despite no wind stirring the trees around them, these abrupt changes in temperature seem to be connected to moments of ghostly sighting or auditory phenomena, reinforcing the impression that Trinity Park holds a hidden, spectral presence. The park's layout and natural environment enhance these mysterious experiences. Winding trails, dense clusters of trees, and open riverbanks create areas where sound and sight can be distorted. Shadows play across the paths, and the rustling of leaves can mimic footsteps or movement. The river itself reflects the dim light of the evening, creating shifting patterns that can give the illusion of figures moving along the banks. Fog or mist rising from the water in early morning or late evening adds another layer of uncertainty, blurring familiar landmarks and making fleeting glimpses of figures or shapes even more disorienting. Even the sound of the flowing river can carry voices and footsteps, allowing whispers to seem more tangible than they might in a city street or open park. Historical context also contributes to the park's reputation. Trinity Park occupies land that has long been central to Fort Worth's development, with early settlers, workers, and travelers using the river and surrounding areas for commerce and recreation. Some believe that the park retains the residual energy of these past residents, manifesting as shadowy figures, whispers, and sudden chills. Paranormal enthusiasts and local storytellers have shared numerous accounts of ghostly sightings, noting that certain areas of the park appear to be more active than others. Wooden benches, quiet river overlooks, and secluded trail sections are frequently mentioned as sites of spectral encounters, suggesting that the past lingers in specific locations, quietly imprinting the memory of former lives onto the present landscape. For visitors who experience these phenomena, the effect is a combination of fascination and unease. Seeing a ghostly figure gliding along a trail, hearing whispers in the air, or feeling a sudden cold chill can transform a casual walk into a tense encounter with the unknown. Some people leave quickly, unnerved by the presence of something they cannot identify, while others linger, captivated by the subtle interactions with what seems like another world. The park becomes a place where time blurs, where modern life intersects with echoes of the past, and where the ordinary experience of a park stroll is intertwined with the mysterious and unexplained. Despite these reports, Trinity Park remains a beloved location for Fort Worth residents and visitors. Its walking paths, river views, and recreational spaces continue to attract people throughout the day. Yet as the light fades and shadows lengthen, the park's spectral layer emerges. Ghostly figures appear along the trails, whispers drift across empty stretches, and sudden chills remind visitors that the park carries memories beyond the present. In these quiet, shadowed hours, Trinity Park transforms into a place where the past and present coexist, a living landscape imbued with echoes of history and the faint but persistent presence of the unseen. Quietly observing, whispering, and moving among the trees, San Antonio Mission's National Historical Park, a site steeped in centuries of history, stretches along the banks of the San Antonio River, preserving some of the most significant remnants of Spanish colonial life in Texas. During the day, visitors stroll among centuries-old stone churches, manicured gardens, and shaded pathways, absorbing the stories of early missionaries and indigenous communities. The park's serene atmosphere, combined with its historic architecture, draws tourists, history enthusiasts, and locals alike. Yet, as the sunlight fades and shadows stretch across the old mission walls, the park takes on a different, more mysterious character. Locals and frequent visitors have reported strange encounters, the spirits of Spanish missionaries walking the grounds, whispers carried on the wind, and shadowy figures near the centuries-old buildings. Many of the reports focus on sightings of apparitions along the mission pathways. Witnesses describe figures dressed in long robes or traditional colonial attire, moving slowly among the stone buildings, as if performing rituals long forgotten. One evening, a couple walking near the mission, Concepcion recounted seeing a figure kneeling in silent prayer in the courtyard. As they approached, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the faint scent of incense and the sound of rustling leaves. Others have reported seeing multiple figures walking together along the pathways, seemingly unaware of the modern world around them. These spectral missionaries are often described as translucent, their edges blurred as though they exist in a space between the present and the past. Whispers carried on the wind are another frequently reported phenomenon. Visitors walking along the shaded trails or near the river have described hearing soft, unintelligible murmurs that seem to drift from the mission buildings themselves. The whispers are sometimes coherent fragments of conversation or prayer. Other times nothing more than faint, eerie sounds that vanish when one attempts to focus on them. A lone historian visiting the park late in the evening reported hearing his own name called softly from the direction of the old chapel, though no one else was in sight. The voices are often fleeting, appearing and disappearing with the shifting breeze, leaving visitors with a sense of unease and a lingering impression that the past is somehow reaching out through the air. Shadowy figures near the old buildings add another layer of mystery to the park's haunting reputation. Many visitors have described glimpsing human-shaped silhouettes moving along the stone walls, peering around corners, or lingering in the archways. These figures often appear at the edge of vision, vanishing when one turns to get a closer look. Some have reported seeing figures moving across the mission lawns as if inspecting the grounds or walking purposefully along the pathways. A few visitors have even described feeling a presence beside them, a subtle pressure, a cold breeze, or the sensation of being watched while the shadowy shapes move silently nearby. The combination of these figures, the whispers, and the historic environment creates a sense that the missions are not just preserved remnants of history, but active spaces where echoes of the past remain alive. The architecture and natural environment of the park enhance these experiences. The mission's thick stone walls, archways, and courtyards create shadows and hidden corners where movement can appear spectral. The flow of the San Antonio River nearby carries sound across the grounds, making whispers and footsteps seem to originate from unseen sources. Even a soft breeze can amplify the illusion of voices or movement, while the interplay of light and shadow across the historic buildings at dusk can create shapes that seem almost human. Fog and evening mist occasionally rise from the river, blurring the outlines of buildings and trees, adding to the otherworldly quality of the park after dark. Historical context also lends weight to these accounts. The missions were centers of Spanish colonial life, where missionaries worked alongside indigenous people, guiding religious practices and daily routines. Many who lived and labored at the missions left strong imprints on the land, and locals believe that the energy of these early residents lingers in the park. Accounts of spirits walking the grounds are often linked to the dedication and devotion of the missionaries who spent long days in prayer, teaching, and tending to the needs of their communities. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous encounters, from figures disappearing behind stone walls to whispers of prayers drifting across the courtyards, noting that certain areas, such as the chapels and cloisters, seem particularly active. Visitors who encounter these phenomena describe a mixture of wonder and unease. Seeing a translucent figure in colonial robes, hearing a whisper carried on the wind, or sensing a shadow lingering nearby transforms a simple walk through the park into an encounter with the past. Some leave quickly, unsettled by the presence of something they cannot fully understand, while others linger, drawn by curiosity and the sense that they are witnessing a connection between the present and a bygone era. Each experience reinforces the feeling that San Antonio Mission's National Historical Park is more than a historic site. It is a living space where history, memory, and perhaps the spiritual echoes of its earliest residents persist. Even as the sun rises and the park returns to its daytime routine, the stories of spirits, whispers, and shadowy figures endure. The missions continue to stand as silent witnesses to centuries of human activity, their stone walls absorbing the lives of those who walked before. At night, in the quiet and solitude of the park, visitors who wander the paths or linger near the buildings may sense the same presence, catching glimpses of ghostly figures, hearing faint murmurs, or feeling a chill that seems to come from nowhere. In these moments, the San Antonio Missions are more than historical landmarks. They are portals into the past, places where the devotion, labor, and lives of Spanish missionaries continue to resonate through the ages. Cameron Park, in Waco, Texas, sprawls across hundreds of acres of wooded trails, open fields, and riverfront pathways. By day, it is a haven for families, joggers, and nature enthusiasts, offering scenic overlooks, picnic areas, and winding trails that reveal the beauty of the Brazos River Valley. Yet beneath this tranquil surface, locals and frequent visitors have long reported experiences that hint at a more mysterious presence. Many speak of phantoms of 19th-century settlers, ghostly whispers carried on the night air, and shadowy figures glimpsed from the corner of the eye. The most common encounters involve ghostly figures along the park's wooded trails. Visitors describe seeing settlers in period clothing moving slowly among the trees, their forms partially obscured by fog or shadows. A hiker recalled spotting a man wearing a long coat and wide-brimmed hat standing near a river bend, as if pausing to take in the view. When she approached, he disappeared, leaving only the faint sound of rustling leaves. Others have reported groups of figures walking together along lesser-used paths, appearing to retrace the steps of the park's earliest inhabitants. These sightings are often fleeting, brief glimpses that vanish when observed directly, yet they leave a lasting impression of being watched by the past. Ghostly whispers are another hallmark of Cameron Park's mysterious reputation. Visitors walking the trails at dusk or after dark have reported hearing low murmurs that drift through the trees and across the open fields, Sometimes the whispers are unintelligible fragments of speech, while other times they resemble soft warnings or calls, as if the park itself is communicating with those who wander its paths. One evening, a lone jogger described hearing his own name whispered repeatedly as he ran near the riverbank. Startled, he stopped and looked around, but the trail was empty. The voices are usually subtle, easily mistaken for the wind or distant animals. Yet they carry a disquieting quality, leaving listeners with the sensation that someone or something is observing from just beyond sight. Shadowy figures, seen from the corner of the eye, are another frequently reported phenomenon. Visitors often notice fleeting movements in the periphery, shapes that vanish when they attempt to focus directly on them. These figures are typically described as humanoid but indistinct, appearing to linger just long enough to be noticed before disappearing. A couple walking along the trail at twilight recounted seeing a figure standing near an old stone wall, only to find it gone when they turned their heads. Others report seeing shadows flit between trees or along the riverbank, moving with an almost deliberate intent. The combination of natural shadows, dense foliage, and fading light may create optical illusions. Yet the consistency of these reports suggests something beyond simple misperception. Cameron Park's landscape contributes to these eerie experiences. The park's dense woods, winding paths, and open meadows create areas where visibility is limited, and ambient sounds echo in unpredictable ways. The Brazos River adds another layer, carrying voices and footsteps across the water, amplifying the sense of movement and presence. Fog and mist, coming along the river in the early morning or late evening, blur the outlines of trees and trails, enhancing the perception of ghostly forms. Even rustling leaves and shifting branches can be interpreted as subtle movements of figures just out of sight. The interplay of light and shadow across the park at dusk or dawn can make familiar paths appear unfamiliar, reinforcing the impression of otherworldly activity. Historical context deepens the park's spectral aura. Cameron Park sits on land that has witnessed centuries of settlement, including early Anglo and German settlers who farmed and lived along the Brazos River. Some locals believe that the energy of these early inhabitants lingers, manifesting as ghostly settlers, retracing old trails, whispering across the meadows, or appearing as shadowy forms in the peripheral vision of modern visitors. Paranormal enthusiasts have documented numerous encounters, noting that certain areas, such as river overlooks, stone walls, and quiet, secluded trails, seem particularly active. The presence of these historical echoes provides a framework for understanding the park's persistent reputation for unexplained phenomena. For those who experience Cameron Park's mysterious side, the encounters are often both fascinating and unsettling. Seeing a ghostly figure emerge from the woods, hearing whispers in the wind, or feeling a shadow pass nearby can transform a casual walk into a tense encounter with the unknown. Some visitors choose to leave quickly, unnerved by the sensation of being observed by unseen presences, while others linger, drawn by curiosity and the thrill of the inexplicable. Each experience reinforces the sense that Cameron Park is more than a scenic location. It is a space where the past quietly intersects with the present, where the lives of early settlers continue to whisper along trails and across fields. Even in daylight, the park's haunted reputation persists. Trails, riverbanks, and open meadows hold the memory of centuries of human activity, and visitors often report sensing something beyond the visible world. As dusk falls and shadows lengthen, the phantoms, whispers, and fleeting shapes become more pronounced, reminding those who walk the paths that Cameron Park is a place where history and the supernatural converge. The park's beauty and tranquility coexist with a subtle, lingering presence, an echo of the past that continues to move, speak, and watch among the trees. Bastrop State Park, located in the heart of Bastrop, Texas, is a sprawling expanse of pine forests, winding trails, and serene lakes. By day, the park offers a peaceful retreat for hikers, campers, and nature enthusiasts. Towering loblolly pines, some hundreds of years old, stretch skyward, casting long shadows across the forest floor. The scent of pine and the sound of birdsong make the park a haven for relaxation. Yet, beneath its tranquil surface, Bastrop State Park holds a reputation for something far more mysterious. Visitors have reported hearing whispering voices among the trees, seeing apparitions of long-dead residents, and witnessing strange lights moving between the pines, creating an unsettling sense that the forest itself harbors secrets beyond the natural world. Many of the park's most eerie encounters occur along its forested trails. Hikers have described the sensation of being followed, accompanied by subtle movements or rustling in the undergrowth that vanish when looked at directly. Some have seen faint human forms drifting among the trees, figures dressed in clothing reminiscent of 19th or early 20th century residents of the area. One visitor recounted walking a narrow trail near a small creek when she saw a woman in a long dress standing among the pines. The figure appeared to be gazing at the path, almost as if waiting, and vanished without a trace when approached. Others have reported seeing men and women walking along trails that were completely empty, only for the apparition to disappear around a bend or through dense foliage. These encounters are often brief and fleeting, yet they leave a lasting impression of a presence that is both watchful and elusive. Whispering voices in the forest are another frequent phenomenon reported by those who explore the park after dark or during quiet times of the day. Visitors often describe hearing soft murmurs that seem to come from the trees themselves. These whispers can range from incomprehensible murmurs to fragments of words, sometimes resembling conversations or calling out names. One evening, a couple hiking near the park's lake claimed they heard voices repeating their own names in a low, urgent tone. They stopped and called out, but no one responded. The voices faded as suddenly as they began, leaving behind only the natural sounds of wind in the pines and the distant croak of frogs. Locals believe that these whispers are echoes of the past, remnants of those who lived and worked in the area long before the park was established. Strange lights moving between the pines are another hallmark of Bastrop State Park's haunted reputation. Hikers and campers have reported seeing small, glowing orbs or shifting lights weaving through the trees at night. Sometimes these lights appear to float just above the forest floor, moving with deliberate purpose, as if guiding or perhaps warning those who cross their paths. Other times, they flicker or dart between the trunks of trees, vanishing when approached. A group of campers describes seeing a pale blue light hovering near a clearing, only for it to rise and disappear into the canopy, leaving them stunned and uneasy. These sightings, often accompanied by sudden chills or the feeling of being watched, contribute to the park's reputation as a place where the natural and supernatural intersect. The park's environment amplifies these mysterious experiences. Bastrop State Park is known for its dense pine forests, twisting trails, and hidden clearings. The forest floor is uneven, and the thick canopy casts shadows that shift dramatically with the position of the sun or the flicker of lantern light at night. Fog occasionally drifts through the forest, obscuring paths and making familiar areas feel strange and otherworldly. Even ordinary sounds, the snap of a twig, rustling leaves, or the distant cry of an animal can be misinterpreted as footsteps, whispers, or movement. The combination of light, shadow, and sound creates an atmosphere that encourages the imagination to fill in gaps, often leading to encounters that seem both real and impossible. Historical context provides further depth to the park's eerie reputation. The land now occupied by Bastrop State Park has a long history of human settlement. From early Anglo settlers to generations of local families who lived, worked, and farmed in the area. Some locals believe that the spirits of these former residents linger, wandering trails, tending to long-forgotten routines, or observing visitors who cross the paths they once walked. Paranormal researchers have documented multiple sightings, noting that areas such as the old camping grounds, trails near the creek, and dense pine groves are particularly active. Reports often describe overlapping phenomena, figures appearing at the same time as whispering voices, or lights moving in tandem with fleeting shadows, adding layers of mystery to already unnerving encounters. For those who experience the park's supernatural side, the encounters are a mix of awe and unease. seeing a translucent figure among the trees, hearing a voice drift through the pines, or witnessing a floating light can turn a peaceful hike into a tense confrontation with the unknown. Some visitors leave quickly, unnerved by the suggestion of being watched by unseen presences, while others linger, drawn by curiosity and the thrill of witnessing something beyond the ordinary. These experiences reinforce the sense that Bastrop State Park is more than a recreational area. It is a living repository of history and memory, where the lives of those who came before continue to echo in subtle, inexplicable ways. Even in daylight, the park's haunted reputation lingers. Trails, groves, and clearings hold the memory of centuries of human presence, and visitors often report a subtle feeling of being observed. At night, when the forest grows quiet and shadows deepen, the phantoms, whispers, and strange lights become more pronounced, creating an atmosphere where history, nature, and the supernatural converge. Bastrop State Park, with its dense pines and hidden trails, is not just a place to hike or camp. It is a space where the past quietly persists, where long-dead residents and unexplained phenomena continue to move, watch, and whisper among the trees. Enchanted Rock State Natural Area, near Fredericksburg, Texas, is a vast expanse of pink granite that rises dramatically from the surrounding hill country. By day, it draws hikers, climbers, and nature enthusiasts eager to explore its rugged terrain, panoramic views, and unique flora. The rock itself, with its smooth, rounded surface, seems to glow warmly under the sun, inviting visitors to scale its heights and witness the sweeping vistas of the Texas landscape. Yet beneath its sunlit beauty lies a reputation for the uncanny. Visitors have reported ghostly figures climbing the rock at night, whispers echoing off the granite, and sudden cold spots that appear without warning, creating an atmosphere of suspense and mystery that lingers long after leaving the area. The most commonly reported phenomena involve ghostly climbers who appear on the rock during evening or nighttime hours. Hikers describe seeing figures dressed in old-fashioned clothing, moving deliberately across the granite as if retracing steps from another era. One visitor recounted climbing a trail near dusk when she glimpsed a man in a wide-brimmed hat and worn boots scaling the rock. His movements were slow and purposeful, and though she tried to call out to him, he vanished without a sound as she approached. Others report seeing groups of figures on the summit, appearing to pause and survey the landscape, only to disappear when observed directly. These apparitions are often fleeting, and their sudden presence leaves visitors with a disorienting sense of having crossed paths with the past. Whispers echoing across the granite are another hallmark of Enchanted Rock's supernatural reputation. The rock's smooth, hard surface carries sound in unusual ways, and visitors have reported hearing soft voices that seem to come from nowhere. Sometimes these whispers are barely audible, carrying fragments of conversation or indistinct words that vanish as quickly as they are heard. Other times, the voices are louder, sounding as if someone is calling a name or issuing a warning. A solo hiker described hearing his own name whispered repeatedly while resting on a flat section of the rock. Looking around, he saw no one, but the whispers continued for several minutes before fading entirely. Many speculate that these sounds are the echoes of long-ago visitors, or perhaps the voices of spirits bound to the rock itself, unable to move beyond the massive granite formation. Sudden cold spots add another layer of unease for those exploring Enchanted Rock after dark. Hikers and campers have reported feeling abrupt drops in temperature while standing in areas otherwise warmed by sunlight or calm night air. Sometimes these chills are accompanied by the sense of being watched or followed, while other times they occur with no apparent cause. A pair of campers described sitting near the base of the rock when a frigid breeze swept across them, though no wind was present, and their blankets and clothing remained undisturbed. Such inexplicable cold spots create an immediate awareness of something unusual, often prompting visitors to move quickly or leave the area entirely. The environment of Enchanted Rock itself contributes to these eerie experiences. The smooth granite surfaces, sheer cliffs, and scattered boulders create natural formations that can appear as humanoid figures or shifting shadows in dim light. The rock's reflective surface amplifies sounds, making distant noises, footsteps, voices, or the movement of animals echo in ways that can be mistaken for supernatural phenomena. At night, when visibility is limited and the landscape is bathed in moonlight, ordinary sights and sounds can take on an otherworldly quality, reinforcing the sense of mystery and heightening the emotional impact of unexplained encounters. Historical context further enhances the rock's haunted reputation. Enchanted Rock has long been a site of significance for indigenous peoples, and later for settlers and explorers. Folklore passed down through generations speaks of spirits who dwell on the rock, guarding it or wandering its vast surfaces. Some believe the rock holds the memories of all who have climbed it. From early Native Americans performing sacred rituals to settlers navigating the rugged hill country, this layering of history gives credence to reports of ghostly figures and unexplained phenomena, suggesting that the experiences of modern visitors are echoes of centuries past, lingering in the shadows of the massive granite formation. Even in daylight, the park's reputation for the uncanny lingers. Trails, boulders, and summit paths hold the memory of countless climbers and visitors. And those attuned to the park's atmosphere sometimes sense presences that cannot be seen. As evening falls and shadows stretch across the granite, the ghostly figures, whispered voices, and sudden chills become more pronounced, turning Enchanted Rock into a place where nature and the supernatural coexist. Visitors who tread its trails are reminded that this massive formation is more than a scenic landmark. It is a living monument to the past, a space where the spirits of those who came before continue to move, speak, and linger among the stone. These 25 haunted parks in Texas remind us that even in the most peaceful landscapes, the past never truly fades. From whispers among trees and apparitions on trails to shadowy figures watching from the darkness, these parks carry the echoes of the past for those willing to listen. Thank you for wandering these haunted trails with us tonight. Subscribe, like, and hit the bell to continue exploring the most haunted places across America, where the wind carries whispers from the world beyond, waiting for those brave enough to hear them.